Now we are recording.
Okay, you ready? Okay. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Ways to Date. This was supposed to be a fantastic live webinar in person in Brooklyn. I said supposed to be.
A live event.
A live event, not webinar. Thank you, thank you. I'm so excited about the webinar. I said webinar. It was supposed to be a live event in Brooklyn. And when I do my events in Brooklyn, we have 50, 60, 70, 80, however many people come. It's amazing. It's wonderful. We love it. It's really exciting. There's a lot of things happening. The one thing that we don't have is the opportunity to reach even more people, which thank God now with Zoom and thanks to Corona, we have the opportunity to reach so many more people. So we are here with you. I want you to know that this was an event that was supposed to be sponsored by my Brooklyn angel. She truly is an angel putting on amazing programs, and please God, after things get back to a new normal, we would love to see you in person sometime soon. Although I always tell people, you don't want to see me in person, you know? Like, let's not meet because you already met your person. Just bring me with your person so I can meet you guys together. That's what I would really, really love. So we are so excited to be here with you. We have an update. The one update, which is that unfortunately, Rabbi Dr. Jack Cohen is unable to be with us this evening. Circumstances did not allow him to be here, so we will, please God, try to reschedule and do something with him a different time. So right now, you get me. Aleeza Ben Shalom, the marriage-minded mentor. I work as a dating and relationship coach, as I'm sure you guys all know. And side by side with me is Sarah Kupfer. Sarah is known as the Fit Jewess. You can follow her on Instagram. And she also is now what I like to call the marketing Jewess, because she works behind the scenes with me in Marriage Minded Mentor. She does marketing, emails and flyers and all sorts of amazing things to keep all of this programming coming to you. And she is going to be here to help us moderate the program and to keep things moving lively and energetic. So Sarah, is there anything else you want to say or give a plug for anything else for you?
I think you covered it. If I think of anything, I'll be sure to interrupt you.
She's awesome. I mean, I also have to say, she was one of my singles who is now engaged. And
I can pretty confidently say that without Aleeza, that would not have happened. I was not easy, right?
Everybody says it, but with you, it was a little bit more true. No, it wasn't that you weren't easy. I think you were in a state of transition. If we could just talk, like, to get real and to get honest, you were shifting locations, you were shifting life, business, work. Like, there was a lot of transition going on in your life, and you were not necessarily prepared to handle another transition coming into your life at a busy time.
I mean, if you say so. I think it had more to do with the fact that he was just nothing that I was looking for. And I had never even had a friend like him, because I was my friend circle is kind of like, they're all like me. And so I was looking for someone like me, and he is nothing like me. And you taught me how to talk his language and understand and communicate. And yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to say, it doesn't always work for everybody that you can find somebody who is, I often recommend people to find somebody who's most similar to themselves, because it makes the relationship a little bit easier. And I think that that's true. And at the same time, for some people, it's not easier because you butt heads all the time because you're so similar. And here you had an opportunity to, you know, like, you're a head person and a thinker and all up here, and he's a heart person. He's all in here. And we had to learn how to create those communication skills. So I think that that was something that was really brought up. And when we're talking about different ways to date, dating somebody that you might not have considered dating before is definitely a different way to date. So,
needless to say.
Okay, so let's just tell you a few little technical things. At the top of the screen, you'll see it says gallery view. If you click it, it can say speaker view. You can choose how you want to view it. If you want to see me, the two of us, Sarah, whoever's speaking, whatever you would like to see, click that. If you have a question, I see there's 3 questions down there already. Way to go. Anybody who has any dating questions, stick them there. We're going to do our best to get to them. And for anybody who just joined us, please head to the chat and tell us where you're from. We would love to know where everybody's, you know, typing in from.
I just have a quick question before we continue. We got a message that someone's having trouble hearing us. So I just wanted to know if you're having a problem with the audio. I don't know if it's that person or if it's us. So can you just drop, just in the chat box, just type yes if you can hear us and no if you're having a little bit of a struggle with that. Yes, can hear you fine, yes. Okay, so I don't know who sent that. I'm going to actually put in AirPods, but I don't know who sent that in.
Oh, that's better.
For me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know who sent that in, but just maybe raise your audio a little bit.
Okay.
Not seeing the panel and other views button.
So we talked about the gallery view or speaker view at the top of the screen. So I'm on my computer, not on my phone, so I'm not sure if it looks different. But there's a different view button. I think that Aleeza is tougher to hear. Okay, great.
They're saying, okay, so some people don't have a gallery view. If you just said that you don't have a gallery view option, are you on a phone? On my computer, I don't see it either.
Maybe you and I are the only ones that see that. Okay, hang on. I'm going to try to put in earbuds because you can hear me so well. Okay. Is this any better for the audio for me? Sorry, you're still there?
Yeah, I hear you. A lot of people are saying they don't have gallery view. And Aleeza, your audio is a tiny bit fuzzy.
Okay, I just put in the headset. Okay.
It could be that we have gallery view. Could be. So do you guys just see as whoever's talking, their face pops up onto the screen? Okay. No. Sorry. To clarify, gallery view would not be everyone on the call. It would just be Aleeza and myself. We set this up as a webinar, so it's not it's not a meeting. We don't want you to see everyone because privacy.
No, sorry, they got it.
Yeah.
They have split screen with the two of us. Okay, great.
Great.
All right. All the technical things aside, are we ready to start, like for real?
I think we're ready to start. And do you want me to start you off with a question, or do you want to give us a little intro first?
No, you can start off with a question. I have a list of things here, but I think what's most important is answering the things that people are most wanting to know and asking, and then, you know, they're probably going to be in line with what I want to say anyway.
Pretty much. Okay, so I'm going to ask two questions.
Somebody put in a comment, this is not for the first time dating only. This is for everybody, whether you're single, divorced, widowed, with children, without children, younger, older. This is for anybody who is now online, dating online, and navigating this process during this time. Anybody who is in the dating world.
Thanks. Okay, so I'm going to ask two questions that I think you're going to answer all together. Anonymous asks, I was wondering what you think about the whole virtual dating idea and if it can work and be a realistic way to date when there's no way to know how soon you'll be able to meet. Also, can it be realistic even for those who don't usually plan to date for so long? And the second question is, would you recommend just holding off to date someone new if you're not already in an existing relationship until after the corona thing versus trying to build a relationship with a screen, which can't fabricate the authenticity of connection that you can only get in person?
Okay, great. So you basically nailed the first three things that I was going to tell you. It's all right. We're in sync. Thank you so much. So here we go. Virtual dating. Some people live long distance. Like I know I have guys and girls across the country. They're dating from this side to this side. They're used to dating online. It's kind of normal for them. They have phone calls. They have they have video chats. They do all of that before they actually meet in person. And sometimes it's 2 or 3 times, and sometimes it's 2 or 3 weeks. And for some people, it's even 2 or 3 months. And they've been video dating until they actually can meet in person. So video dating and phone dating is nothing that's new, even if it's new to you. It's something that has been done and it can be done successfully, but you have to be committed to the process. So if you're somebody who says, Aleeza, I only plan on dating for a short amount of time. This isn't like I plan to go out for 2 months or 3 months or an unknown period of time and then finally meet somebody. It's just too long of a process. If you're not comfortable with that, you don't have to start video dating now. You can wait, you can hold off. Some recommendations have been for people to look into possibilities now, but not necessarily say yes and start going out. I just want to acknowledge that on the call, we have people from all walks of life. We have all ages, we have all backgrounds, we have all religious backgrounds from secular through very religious. And I'm somebody in general who works with a wide variety of people. So I'm used to being able to talk and speak to different crowds. So I want to let you know the different options, and within whatever community that you're most comfortable with, you'll adapt the information for you. So the way that I see it is that you need to know what you can handle. And if you can't handle online dating, please don't do it. Don't put yourself through the stress and the pressure. We can find you a hobby. I started taking up the ukulele. I am learning how to play it. I try to practice alone so that nobody else has to be tortured by my playing at the moment. And and it's kind of entertaining and fun. But if you're looking for something to do during this time and it's not dating, you should find out what to do. If you are seasoned at online dating, you're like, okay, so I've done this before. It's unknown how long this will be. It's very true. So we do have to come up with ways to continue the dating process and to dig into it a little bit more, and we're going to talk about that. And if you're somebody who's in between and you're like, Aleeza, I don't know if this is going to work for me. It might work for me. It might not work for me. I'm not sure if I want to dig into this. I would tell you, if you have the time, if you have the headspace for it, if your heart is open to it, give it an opportunity. See once or twice if this could work for you, and try to develop something. Sometimes in a time of a crisis, whatever the crisis would be, there's a lot more openness. People are more vulnerable. There's a much deeper connection that can happen. And we know that with online, it could be a false positive because you've never met in person, but we don't have anything else to go on right now. So we have to kind of jump in with the thinking that there is a possibility that this could happen, that this could be the right thing for me, and that I'm going to give it a shot. So now let's talk about a few specifics about what you can do for your dates if you're going to try to be successful with this, and how do you build a connection, not too deep, not too shallow, move it along at the right pace and keep something moving. So I want to tell you about something that I call temporary insanity. Before any major, sorry, you know this, before any major Jewish holiday like the New Year, Rosh Hashanah, even before Hanukkah or Passover, anything that is big, I call it temporary insanity. 2 weeks before the holiday and 2 weeks after. Put coronavirus aside. Usually it's a very busy time. There's so many things that are going on, and it's a very difficult time to get something moving, because also people are usually traveling and shifting and things are happening and you don't know where people are going to be and what's going to be doing. And so it becomes a place of instability. So in general, I recommend that people don't get started with dating at this time, but that they just continue what's going on, or if they're looking into anything, they postpone starting it until after the holiday. So in this example, people aren't moving about. We're not just landlocked, we're like house locked. We can't even get out of where we are. And there's not as much shifting and changing externally, but there might be that internal shift and change that's happening. So because there's less physical traveling within the world, it does allow for us to have more time to be online. It does allow for us to have the opportunity to get to know people and not to be super interrupted by so many things that are happening, because so many things aren't happening. Like, I just have to schedule my date around my Zoom meeting, both of which are virtual. So there's a little bit more flexibility right now in terms of dating online and in terms of getting something going right now. And I think if you want to be dating right now, there's a lot of people that are looking for connection. So I don't think that you have to feel like you can't start dating. But I do also want to acknowledge the other side of this. So the other side of this, there's, like you ask, what is it? You ask one rabbi or one person, one Jewish person, and you get 2 opinions or 3 answers, right? Something like that. So if you ask a question, should we be dating now? What's the Jewish world's response to that question? Well, some people say date, but you may not date in person. 100% just zero in-person dates. Now, it seems obvious, but not everybody is in a city that's shut down. So in Philadelphia, we are shut down and landlocked. It's just the way that it is. In New York, I know it's the same way, and I know California and maybe Florida and some other states are following along. But not every state or not every country is like that right now. Even though growth is stunted, not everybody's like that. But there are some opinions that say, no in-person dating, period. We don't care where you are in the world. It's just not the time for in-person dating. There's other opinions that say no dating at all, okay? Zero dating, not in person, not online. This isn't the time for dating. And that opinion from a lot of the singles that I've worked with has really struck a chord and really, it's upsetting. It's very upsetting. How could you say don't date online? How could you say don't meet people? How could you say don't get to know people? We don't know how long this is going to last. And I think I want to explain where I think the thinking came from, because a lot of people were still planning, or maybe some, depending on your state or country, are planning to actually get together with family in very small, intimate groups. If you live close or if you live with the family. And some of the greatest concern is for the older generation, for the parents, for the grandparents, that even if you're meeting in these quote safe terms and with somebody, and then all of a sudden you come home and now grandma gets corona, what was it for? Was it really worth that one date? Could we not just wait a month? So that's really where it's coming from. And at the heart of it, God forbid, nobody would want that to happen, but that's the seriousness of it, which is why in Judaism, we do something where we put a fence around something. And the fence is there to guard us and protect us. So if I had a house and on my house I had an upper deck, right? I would never have an upper deck, a 2nd story deck, without having a fence around it. Why? I mean, I might walk off, I might trip off, I might fall off, somebody might bump into you and you might tumble off, okay? So in Judaism, we build a fence around something in order to guard us and to keep us safe. So we build this type of thinking is a fence built around dating and relationships to protect you, to protect family, grandparents, parents, everybody in your circle and network. And that's why this message came out. So for anybody that heard that, if it's new information to you, sorry if I just blew your mind and shocked you, but for anybody that heard that information before, I think that's where it's coming from. For me personally, from where I'm coming from, I've had so many people date virtually for so long that virtual dating is not normal. What's not normal is not knowing when we're actually going to get in person. And it's a problem. Let's just call it what it is. I'm just going to pause for a minute. It's a problem. We don't know when we can see each other again face to face. We don't know when you guys can see each other face to face. So what do we do about that? And how long can you really carry on an online relationship? So I'm going to take a pause, take a breather here. If any of you have any answers, how long do you think we can really carry on an online relationship? I want you to throw it into the chat box. No. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt for a quick second because I'm getting a lot of questions coming in. Some of you are putting them in the Q&A box, which is really helpful. Some of that you are putting them in the chat box. If you put it in the chat box, there's a good chance it's going to get lost because I'm trying to keep track of everything. And as Aleeza asks you to respond in the chat box, your question is going to get lost. So if you put a question in the chat box, please take 20 seconds to find it, copy it, and paste it into the Q&A section so that we could answer it. Otherwise, it'll most likely get lost. Thank you.
Okay, great. Do you have, Sarah, do you have all the comments that are coming in? Because I'm talking, but I'm not reading all the comments.
I do. I have not long, a few weeks, 2 weeks. As long as needed, there are ways to make the date enjoyable and different. You just have to be creative. As long as it takes, we have no other choice. So we're ranging from a couple weeks to kind of just, we're in this
Unknown.
situation, so.
Right. Somebody else wrote here, I see, we were in a long distance relationship for almost a year. And, you know, but, you know, now, sorry, for almost a year, but the difference was that we were together before, right? So if you were together before, then you actually had seen each other and known each other. That's different. So the difficult thing is,
there's also, I'm gonna just throw in one more thing. There's a
yes,
answer here that I think actually makes a great question, and maybe I'll get to it. But she says, until a bond develops that the two people want to see each other, then if they don't meet, it can fizzle out. You might get to this a little bit later, but I do want to know, and I think that many people will want to know, if we're in the situation right now where we don't know when people are going to actually be meeting each other, is there such a thing? Is that a real possibility that if we just continue video dating, how realistic is it that things will fizzle out? How do we make sure that doesn't happen when we don't know what's going to happen next?
okay. So yes, it can totally fizzle out. Online dating can just get stale. It can get boring. It can get old. Over texting can become a problem. So I think there needs to be set up some parameters, and I'm going to give you generic information, and then I want you to make it specific to you and to the person that you're dating, because everybody is unique and individual and different. So in general, I tell people, if you want to have a conversation, it should be through the phone or video. That means that texting, if you are texting, it's not for a conversation. Texting could be for a quick check-in. How are you doing? What's doing? I'm thinking of you. If you're already past the first 3-4 dates and there's something moving already, you could use texting in between here and there, but don't base your conversation on a texting conversation. If we're talking about video or telephone dates, then what I want you to do is to get super creative. So first of all, one of the things that I love to do in general is to have clients start to make space for somebody in their life and start to shift things around, okay? So the person that you're dating, put them aside just for a minute. This is really like a mind game, a brain game, not a mind game because that has a negative connotation, more of a brain game. This is to expand your consciousness, expand your thinking, and expand your ability to navigate things that are new and different and uncomfortable. So just for example, I've got my phone here, and on my home screen, I've got all these different apps, okay? And so with all these different apps, do you guys ever do this? This happens to me every so often. I install a new app. I'm like, oh, that's an important one. You know what? I'm going to put that on my home screen. And with Apple, when you put it on your home screen, it like shifts everything around. If I move it to here, then everything else moves one space over. And I'll tell you, my thumb still goes back to the space where that thing used to be. Sorry, you're smiling, so I know you know what I'm talking about. Do you do that too? Yeah. So I like to do this every so often. I like to do a brain game because I like to expand my brain and my thinking. I will move something to a new space. My intention in moving that is to draw my awareness and consciousness to, first of all, making new space for new things to come in, things that are less familiar to me, things that are less needed or used or wanted in my life for whatever reason, and move over something like, let's say, my email inbox, which is like every day I'm checking it. I can't even tell you how many times a day. And if I move my email inbox from the closest spot to my thumb to reach it to like one space over, my brain goes crazy. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so annoying. Oh my gosh, I can't reach it. First of all, I have small thumbs, but I can't reach it. It's not as easy. It's like, why isn't it where I want it to be? Everything's like a little bit out of order. And it just grounds me. And as irritating as that moment is, I use it as a conscious reminder dozens of times a day. Wait a minute. If I would be dating, right? If you're in the dating mindset, bringing somebody into my life or into my world, even in the first date, the second date, the third date, the fifth date, it doesn't matter. This is going to be difficult. This is probably going to be, besides good, irritating. This is not going to be as enjoyable or pleasant or nice as all these other things. I might want it to be amazing. Maybe we'll have sparks. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll connect. But when somebody comes into your life, you have to make space. And so I use this as a tool to clear space in our minds so that we can clear space in our lives to allow somebody else to come in. So in terms of talking about dating and keeping things fresh and moving online, I would tell you, in the same way that you would date in person, you should date online. So if you would normally see somebody twice a week, so see them twice a week. Do not talk to them every night before bed just because you have nobody else to talk to. Make sure that you build your community and your friend network. Don't count only on this other person. And this is also one of the tips that I would tell you in general. Don't get on a phone call expecting somebody to fill the space of emptiness or loneliness or need for connection. When you're on a date with, whether, again, the beginning of dating or even later on, it's a very difficult place to find a connection. So don't put the weight of needing a connection with them. Make sure you reach out to your friend or a family member or a coworker or somebody else so that you have that connection piece fulfilled within you. And then when you go on a date, okay, so we also have space for somebody else to come into your life, but they're not needing to fill this essential role for you.
I really, really, really like that point, because I think especially now with all this social distancing going on, so many of us are craving more connection. Even I'm like a total introvert. I know Aleeza doesn't believe me. I'm an extroverted introvert, but I recharge by being alone. And I've worked remotely forever. But when I tell people I work from home, really what I mean is I work from Starbucks. I'm not used to like literally being stuck at home. And even though that's my go-to choice, I'm like connection. I need that connection. And I think that it's very easy to kind of let a date fill that need instead of letting the date fill the need of a date.
Right. I did see here on the chat box, somebody's asking if you finally feel like you're getting to the point where you just need to meet each other in person, isn't it okay to meet in person 6 feet away? So this is the point. This is
Don't answer it, Aleeza. Don't answer it.
Sarah has an answer for you. This is a point of contention within the world. There's some people in the world that say, no, right now is not the time for it. There are other people in the world that say, why do we have to be more strict than the rules that are in the world? The rules in place are 6 feet away. So stay 6 feet away and that would be okay. So as for Sarah's request, I'm not going to answer it. I would look to your personal guides and mentors, the people, I've had people say, no, Aleeza, you are my guide and mentor. Great. But the people that you also respect in the medical community, the people that you respect in terms of health and wellness. At this point, every time we are leaving the house, there's this enormous risk to our own lives and other people's lives. So people are really taking it very seriously, at least right now, let's say within the next 2 weeks, in the next month, something like that. It's not ideal to set up something in person. It would be more ideal. Also, it's not ideal also because it's pre-Pesach. Even if Corona wasn't here, I would just tell you pre-Pesach, again, this momentum, like it's very hard to get the momentum going. And so, you know, there might be more opportunity to do it afterwards. So I'm going to leave that up to you, Sarah. We're going to leave it up in the air to the medical professionals that are deemed appropriate to answer that. Is that fair to say?
This also goes for the person who asked about meeting. Well, someone asked about having already gone out a few times before the whole coronavirus thing happened. Can you continue going out? And I think that the answer is basically what Aleeza just said. So no real answer.
It's an ever-evolving situation, and I think the repercussions are pretty serious, so I would not want to have that on my shoulders. And I do think that we each need to make an individual decision, but with a lot of guidance and advice from those that have a lot more information about our safety and wellness.
All right, I have two great questions here. I'm going to be super honest. I'm trying to keep track of a whole lot of different things. So if you answered this, then just tell me you already answered it. but the question, because I know I brought it up before, but the question is, what do you recommend if I started talking to someone who initially was long distance and now seeing each other is even harder? It's been 3 weeks and something has already developed and we both feel connected. What's the best way to be successful to get to know each other on a deeper level, but at the same time, not to get hurt?
This to me isn't just a question during this time period. In general, we all want to know, how do we do the right thing, build a connection, build a meaningful, real connection, but not be so vulnerable and so put all our eggs in one basket where we're completely shattered at the end of any process. So number one is, I think that you need to be healthy, grounded, of sound mind, in a place where you can be open to inviting somebody new into your world and into your life. And at the same time, you have to be somebody who knows that whatever happens is for the good. If this works, it's for the good. If you break up, it's because you were not supposed to be with them. Marrying them would have been a really bad idea, and there's somebody else that's there that's appropriate for you. And somehow we have to hold and juggle these two concepts simultaneously, because neither is more important. If you hold back from them, you'll never develop something real. If you put everything in and you go all in, you'll be crushed and shattered if something does not work out. So if you can hold on to both of those ideas and be real with somebody and be hopeful. I like that people come from a genuine, real, sincere place where they feel hopeful and connected and they want something to happen. And to know, if it doesn't happen, I have the tools and I know how to pick myself back up, because we're going to get knocked down. It's life, it's love, it's dating. It's supposed to be this way. Think about all of the music that's out there, hundreds of that, millions of love songs, all about love, broken hearts, relationships that never work. This is what happens in the world, and it's normal. And not only is it normal, I expect every single time your relationship not to work, except for that one time when it happens to work, and that's the time that it works. Now, every single time your heart might not get broken because they might be more invested and you might have one foot out the door, but somebody usually gets hurt in relationships, and it's just the way that it is. But if you can be solid in your core and be grounded and to have the right footing, I think that you'll be able to weather the storm. And I wouldn't want you to hold back from a real connection, because there's a lot of real connections that happen virtually and in person. So we just need to be aware of grounding ourselves. I think that that's the best answer that I can give you.
And what is the likelihood of online video phone dating working out, where you talk for months and months potentially and then meet in person? Do you see that working out, or being so drastically different in person that it doesn't go anywhere when we meet in reality? And a few people had questions along the similar lines of, I guess the underlying question is, how much of the person am I really getting via phone or video versus what I'm going to get in person? And I'm going to read one more question and then they'll answer them together.
Pile it on.
I'm terrified about not getting the in-person first impression. The nonverbals and intangibles are so important to sparking attraction. For people who are not definitely planning to be fully showmanagia, that's also a big downer to not be able to add texture to the relationship with human touch. On the other hand, not dating at all for quite a long time would crush the spirit of older singles. So the older was in brackets, all singles. So I guess, yeah, how I think does this actually work? And how much of a difference are you getting in person versus what you're getting in virtual reality?
Okay. In person, let's just call it what it is. In person, face to face, it's just different, right? Even as much as you see me and you're like, oh yeah, Aleeza, right? If you never met me in person, you don't know me. You know, like, I'm short, I'm not even 5'1", you know, like if you picture me to be this 5'7", tall person who has a different way of carrying herself, and right, I am who I am, and yet when you meet me in person, I'm going to be so much different than you expect. So the question is, how do we hold those two concepts and buy into a relationship that potentially could fail on the very first meeting, and we might be speaking for the next 3 months? It's difficult. Really, really, really difficult. So number one, I would tell you that speaking by the phone is okay for the first 1 or 2 calls. I think in the beginning, long distance daters have started by the phone and then transitioned to video, and that's not a bad transition. So basically it goes like this. I don't need to see your face, because if I don't like what you have to say, it doesn't matter if I like your face. If I don't like who you are, it doesn't matter what you look like, because it's not about looks, it's about a person, okay? Once we've spoken on the phone and we establish I like who you are, or I can connect to who you are, or there's a little something here, or I'm curious about something, or I don't know if there's something here, but I'm willing to take a look into it. As long as it's not a hard no, oh my gosh, that was an awful conversation. If it's not a no, then it's a yes for now. So we continue. And I would transition into the video date. When you meet face to face like this, if you get on a video screen and you look at the other person and in your brain you're like this, no way. It's like, Aleeza, I couldn't beat this person. Really? That's who you want me to go out with? Oh my gosh. Not that I'm setting you up, but like, you know, when I work with clients, they tell me, they're like, Aleeza, I don't think I would like their look in person. I don't even like it through the video. Okay. Can't argue with it. And for right now, you won't be able to see them in person for a while. So you could do one of 2 things. You could say, listen, I'm going to put this on hold and just say, you know, got a lot of things moving right now. I don't want to keep dating. Let's revisit when things are more normal and we could potentially meet in person. Or you could just say, no, thank you. This isn't for me. Don't feel bad. No guilt. No guilt, no guilt, no guilt, no guilt about not liking somebody's face. If you don't like their face, it's the same thing if you don't like their personality. We come as a whole package. We come into this world as a body and a soul. And when you find your person, you have to like the soul. You have to like what's on the inside, their kishkas, what they're really made of. And you have to be okay with how they look. You might not be over the moon. They might be what I call parv, neutral, middle of the road, parv plus, parv minus, whatever it is. You have to be okay with how somebody looks. So if you don't like the way somebody looks, you don't have to beat yourself up over it. However, I will tell you, there are a lot of people that meet and they start by the phone and there's something on the inside and it's so sweet and it's so nice. And then they see the photo or the video and they're like, okay, totally not what I was looking for, but let me see, because I like who they are on the inside. And then after 1 call or 2 calls or 3 or 4, and then they're like, you know, like I'm kind of getting used to the look and they seem to be genuine and real and sincere. Like I'm really getting a sense of who they are. And I'm okay. I like what's on the inside and I'm becoming okay with what's on the outside. Then at that point, yes, it would take waiting a couple of months and continuing to date online to see if in person you can still feel connected to them, if you can still feel like this is something that's good for you. What's going to be in a couple of months? I don't know. Is it a couple of months? I don't know. Is it 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks? Are we going through the summer? We really, really, really don't know. So don't stress yourself out about that. You don't know. I don't know. The only one that knows is God. There's nobody in this world that knows how long this is going to be. God is the only one that is running this time clock. It's going to be what it's going to be. My question is, do you have the right gear? You know, like when you go out in the cold, you put on your jacket, right? If it's 0 degrees out, you are not going outside with all the right gear. If you don't have the right gear, stay inside. So if you have the right gear to get online, do you have the right gear? Do you have the right headspace? You know, like, did you put yourself in the right headspace for this? Is your heart in the right place? Do you have the ability to wait this process out and move so much slower than we normally move through the process? That's number 1. Number 2, I just want to address the physical side of things, and then Sarah, you can cut in and tell me any other new questions.
Wait, I actually have a question about, oh, okay, fine.
Okay, so the physical side of things, somebody mentioned about Shomer Nagia and that they don't hold by, you know, not touching, they engage in touching through a physical relationship. So anyway, again, Corona aside, we don't even care about Corona right now. In general, when people are dating, if you're not dating and holding by Shomer Nagia, I recommend that people do it for a minimum of 5 dates. 5 full dates to make sure you like what's in here and you like what's in here. Because if you don't like what's in here and what's in here, I don't care about how you feel when you're with them. That doesn't matter to me. That confuses your brain so much. And it makes the dating process really difficult. And it makes the phone conversations with my clients that I have really hard. because they like the physical intimacy, but then they don't really like the person's thinking or the way that they're treated. It hurts them. It doesn't work, or it doesn't all work. There's just too many things. So in general, I recommend, I call it hands off for clarity. I wrote a book. It's in the book, Get Real, Get Married. It's on Amazon. I don't even know if Amazon's shipping at this point, but if they are, it talks about hands off for clarity. If you really want to have true clarity, you're not going to keep dating somebody if you're not touching them and you don't like them. If you don't like who somebody is on the inside, you're going to bail so much sooner. So I'd rather you have hands off anyway. So this process for me is like a win-win. For anybody who's already holding by Shomer Negi and you're like, well, I wouldn't touch them anyway, but like, I'd like to see them face to face. We date very quickly within 10 dates or, 2 months, we're already engaged. This is not like I'm going to be dating online for 2 months, never see them, and then, get engaged without ever seeing them. So yeah, this is a different process. The question is, are you up for this? Are you open to shifting what you're doing? And are you open to trying online? You don't have to. Nobody has to be dating during this time. Everybody could take a break if you wanted, but there's a lot of people that are dating. And in terms of the your pool that's online, whatever the numbers were, I'm sure that they have more than doubled. I'm sure that the dating websites right now are exploding with people, and the amount of hours that people are on searching and looking has, I don't know what the number is, but it's not doubled, tripled, quadrupled. It might be multiplied times 10 or 100. People are just on all the time because they finally have the freedom to do it. And what do you want more in the world than finding your soulmate? That's what people want. So everybody's doing what they want in the world. They are looking, they're searching, they are trying. And there's a real possibility you might find somebody new because there's probably dozens and dozens of new people. So it's not a bad time to take a look and to experiment with this if you're open to
it. Awesome. Quick question somewhere here is, should we be reaching out to Shadchanim at this time? And I think to your last point, why not? Right? Just let them know up front you're open to video. If you're open to video dating, let them know that you're open to video dating. And someone else asked if there's any specific sites that you recommend in terms of dating sites.
Yeah. Whew. Okay. So a couple of things. Shadchanim, I think many of them are still making suggestions, and they do have lots more time now to do it because a lot of other things in their schedule freed up and they're not as busy as they used to be. From the chats that I'm on, they are very, very eager to support singles during this time. So yes, I would say reach out, let them know what you're comfortable doing. This webinar and this program is also sponsored by Partners in Shidduchim. And I want to tell you about Partners in Shidduchim. Partners in Shidduchim, if you're not familiar, is an online database that has singles, and they have, in addition to singles who are potentially looking for themselves, you have an advocate who could search on your behalf. So just for example, if Sarah was on the website and Sarah's like, I'm not looking on this, I don't want to be on a website looking for myself, somebody else can help me. Sarah could have her friend or her sister look for her, or her mentor look for her and be an advocate and search the database and make suggestions through the database. And Partners in Shidduchim is a free database. Bela Yaniv runs the program, and it is her intense desire and goal to bring as many singles together as possible. It is her life's work. She is so driven and so passionate about this that she has worked so hard to create this database, which, as you know, takes beyond the hours and the dollars and the effort that's behind it. It just takes so much out of people to do this. So I highly recommend for anybody that's interested to look on Partners in Shidduchim. There are other websites and apps that you can go on. There's Jewish websites like JWed. There's which is a more religious website, or somewhere between it's so hard. That's the wrong answer. Somewhere between traditional through whatever. I don't even know what maybe you could tell me what the right term is.
Yeshiva?
Do you know the right?
All the way
okay, so tradition. Yeah, tradition, somewhere in the open to keeping Shabbat kind of thing, all the way through yeshivish and all different mixes everywhere in between. Of course, Solyu at Sinai is a database that has singles on there, and matchmakers actually make the suggestion for you. In the secular world, there's JDate. J-Swipe is interesting. There's secular, there's religious, there's a little bit of everybody on J-Swipe, and people are just swiping and meeting in all different ways. And did I cover all the options? And there's free and there's paid versions of all different things. So you have to decide, you know, like money's tight right now, so Partners in Shidduchim is a great resource, a great database, and it's free. You know, if you want to be on other websites, you might have to pay for them, and so you might not be as into them, or you might want to put your resources. You have to kind of decide, where am I putting my effort? Where am I putting my resources? If you haven't had success on one site, try a different one. If you also try different information. A lot of the times when I work with clients, we tweak their online profiles. The photos, what they say, what they're looking for, who they are, age ranges. There's like all these nuances. I'm a little bit of a spreadsheet kind of girl, where in my brain, I've got like 25 screens running of all the things that are important to do to fix up somebody's profile. And so I taught my coaches what to do and how to work with singles through the process of fixing everything up so that you can get different results. So basically, if you're not getting results, you could stay on the website that you're on, or you could pop all of that information off and you can revamp it, and then you could poof, appear like a new person online. Sometimes that kind of changes the algorithm behind the scenes when you add new information.
I also just want to add that there's a couple of, I don't know if they're new or just new or more popular right now, dating apps and dating sites. I'm not even totally sure what they are, and I have not vetted them, but Shidduch Vision or Shidduch View or something like that. I think that's actual video dating.
Yes, I spoke with him. He's fantastic. They are promoting. Which one,
Shidduch Vision?
I will tell you in 30 seconds. I don't want to say the wrong name because they're all so similar. Hold on. I'm looking it up right now in my phone. It's Elchanan Ben. Hold on a minute. It's in my, maybe you'll find it. It's in my Marriage Minder inbox. Is it Shidduch View?
I don't know.
Shidduch View. It's Shidduch View. Everybody's saying Shidduch View. You looked at it today. Yeah. Okay. Shidduch View. Okay. So basically, I just talked to him the other night, and he set up this whole program for 5-minute video dates. There's a specific day, a specific time. You put in all your information. They match you up, and they say, great, get on at this time. You have a 5-minute date. After the date, you say yes or you say no. If you both say yes, you get another date, and then it's 10 minutes. If you both say no, or one says no, then you don't get a date. You move on and you try again. And that is another website, or not a website, it's an app that has gone up that is really tons of hours and so many things behind the scenes to get this going. It's really fantastic. I think there's just, right now, there are many, many options. And the question is, to me, it's very specific about you. What do you want to do? What can you tolerate? What can you handle? If you tell me, I hate dating online, don't date online. Just don't do it. Be social online. Go to learning classes online. Do other things online. Join groups where you can navigate and schmooze and chat with people, but don't date online. If you say, all right, I've been dating online, but nothing's been working, great. Whatever you're doing, pivot, shift, do it a little bit differently, switch it up, try to do something in a different way.
Awesome. Okay, we've got like a gazillion questions and I want to get to all of them. But first,
I think there's like 30.
Aleeza, this is a quick question, so I want like a 20-second answer to 1 minute. But how long would you suggest the actual phone calls or video calls should be? And does it make a difference if it's the first few dates, or you've seen each other for a couple weeks already? So not length of time that you're dating, but the actual phone calls. Should there be a structure? How do you communicate that? What do you have to say? Okay, I'll give you 2 minutes.
No. Interrupt me. Let's go. Let's start with first. Give me the first. Let's break it down. First date.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so in general, I would tell you don't obligate somebody to speak on the phone with you for longer than 45 minutes-ish. You know, in person, you might be dating for 2 hours, but on the phone, like they might not even want to talk to you after 5 minutes, so 45 minutes is 40 minutes too long. That being said, I did have somebody call me recently and say, Aleeza, I'm nervous because we just had a 4-hour first phone date and that wasn't either of our plans. You know, neither of us had anything else to do and it really worked and we really clicked. Is that bad or is that wrong or what do I do now? If it happens, it happens. But I would just say in general, you could set it up and just say, you know, let's talk. I have availability between this time and this time. If you tell somebody when you're available and you make it an open window of 45 minutes, then they know that that's how much time you have to spend. If you want to talk longer and it goes nicely, I am not opposed to following the energy of the moment, unless you're the kind of person where you're like, oh, that's going to burn out, and then it's like crash and burn. So sometimes I see spikes of connection, like high highs, and then it drops off, and literally 2 phone calls later, they're like, done. Like, I have nothing else to say. Yeah, I thought it was the most amazing thing ever, and like, oh, there's nothing. So to me, it's not bad, and I don't think that you could have actually changed the outcome by going slower. I just think you sped up the timeline. Instead of talking to them for the next 2 weeks, you did it all in, 3 days. So it's not necessarily
But don't
bad.
you think it would have been more productive? Maybe productive isn't the right word, but would it have been more, I don't know what the right word is, healthy, productive, beneficial to spread it out? Like, do you think that feeling, just the feeling of itself of having an hour, and knowing that you can carry a conversation for an hour and you have something to look forward to, doesn't that in and of itself lend itself to building something versus we spoke for 4 hours straight, we have nothing to talk about, this is awkward, this is not going to happen again?
So in general, I agree with consistency over time and seeing the repetition of things. I love that. If we're talking about 2 people who have a connection, and you know those people where they like have a connection and they just keep going and like try to tell them to get off the phone. It's never going to work. So I could tell you, sure, this is an ideal way to date, but the people that are doing that, to tell them that that's a wrong way to date, it's not necessarily wrong for them. It might be wrong for like the rest of the population, but there is, I've worked with so many different people that I see there are different classifications of people and different buckets. And there is this bucket of connection people who they won't let go of that. And maybe you understand this, but like you could be on the phone with somebody for 3 hours. Like you could schmooze with somebody for a really long time. And if you would get worn out by a second or third conversation, I think you would assume, oh, wait, I guess this wasn't really, I thought this was going somewhere, but I guess it really wasn't. And I don't think that would have changed for you over the course of 3 or 4 dates necessarily. So okay. I think it's personality based. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you're like, I can't relate to that. You're not one of the people that can do that. So just have the hour date for 4 times.
Awesome. What about initially when this is first starting, we're going to assume that most of the people that this question relates to this is not something that they do on a regular basis. So they're not super experienced with long distance dating. But is there, how do you set up that initial structure? How do you set those boundaries in terms of like, not wanting to get a call every single day from the person that I'm not going to put dating in quotes, but like when you're just starting, yeah. It's real dating. But also, what if you have someone who, wants to know when to expect that call and the other person is just like, oh, I'm not to say I'm bored now, I'm going to give them a call, but like, oh, I want to talk to them, I'll give them a call. How do you set up those initial guidelines and boundaries? Obviously, once it's been going for, a couple weeks or whatever, it'll come. Yeah. But how does that, if you're not using a matchmaker or someone else in between, how do you set that up initially?
Okay. So I would set that up similarly to how you would normally do regular dating. Meaning if you would normally see somebody, my rule is 3 dates in 10 days. Okay. My goal is to get people to have 3 dates in 10 days. That's also in the book. And that means Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Okay, you with me? So if you go out on a Sunday, so to speak, when I say go out, I mean online go out, right? If you have a phone call on Sunday, maybe you're not going to talk on Monday. Maybe you'll talk on Tuesday or Wednesday. So let's say you talk on Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, maybe you want to send a good Shabbos message, just a good Shabbos text. It's okay to say good Shabbos. hope you're well, and set up a time to talk again, either Sunday or Monday the following week.
Are you saying this
so
up front though? Like, okay, you set up a time to talk the first time, right? And then before you get off the phone, are you going to say like, okay, hey, would you like to chat again? How do you, this is new ground for a lot of people. So what does that look like?
So I think it's weird in person and it's weird on a date. It doesn't like a virtual date, right? In person, if you want to say like, oh, I'd love to see you again, and you're not so sure if they want to see you, and you're putting yourself vulnerable and open and out there, and you're like, and they're like, oh yeah, sure, I'll be available. They're like blowing you off, and you're like, oh gosh, what do we do here? It's a little tricky. So let's give like option A, option B, option C. So option A, you click, you like have this spark. You're like, oh, this is good. It was so nice to talk to you. Who says, let's talk again? Guys, you need to ask the ladies out. Ladies, are you going to say I'm available on this day and time? What's your preference? I would just tell you that everybody has a different preference in the modern world. My preference is that the guys ask the ladies. Ladies, I know from working with men that they love to know if you're interested, because a lot of them cannot read what you are thinking. They have no idea.
What? One second. Men are not mind readers?
I love you, Sarah. So if you could just clue them in, but then again, ladies, if you clue them in that you're interested and you don't know if they're interested, so it's like, and then who, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? So basically, somebody's got to do something, or it's going to be Splitsville and everything's done before it even got started. So if you have interest, then you could say something in that moment towards the end of the date. Or sometimes I like this. Here's the subtle approach, right? You're talking about something and they ask you about something and they're like, oh, when we talk next time, well, I'll tell you about that story. I love that. You know why? You just planted a seed in their brain that we are going to talk next time, that I want to talk next time, that there will be a next time. You gave them a clue, and that's really helpful to not say it outright if you don't want to say it outright. For anybody out there, because I have plenty of clients that are like, Aleeza, I would just say like, hey, I had a nice conversation. I'd love to talk again. Are you free on Tuesday? So for anybody who's straightforward and just like loves the direct approach, go for it. If they say no, right, I would say, what's the worst thing they could say? The worst thing that they can say is no. If they say no, they say no. Okay. So you'll find somebody else. We only invest in one.
The good news is you don't have to like drive home with them after that. You just hang up the phone.
Right. So if they say no, they say no, but I'd rather you ask. And in general, if they say, sure, would you like to talk tomorrow? If you're trying to space this out a little bit and they didn't listen to this webinar, so they don't know how to do a healthy spacing, then what you might say is, oh, you know what, tomorrow doesn't work for me, but I am available. You have to tell them when you are available if you're going to say no to something, but I am available on, and give them the day that you want. Tuesday night at 7, would that work for you? Or Wednesday night at 8, that's good for me. Is that good for you? Also, do not make a phone call for super duper late at night. It is the witching hour. It is the bizarre hour. Weird conversations happen and bizarre behaviors start to happen, and people are just in a different headspace. So when is that time? No idea
what you're talking about. None.
When is that time period? Like borderline, like 9:30 starts to get weird. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't test it just to be like, I want to know what it means. Call me at 9:30. Don't call them at 9:30. No, after 9:30, there's just a different energy that hits the world. Now, because you might be open to dating long distance and doing things, in a larger span than you normally are. I know my clients that are in Seattle or California and they're dating, it's New York or Philadelphia or Florida or something. So there's this time difference happening. So yeah, your 7 might be their 10. So I'm just telling you it's not ideal. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying if weird things happen, don't be surprised. Be like, oh, Aleeza said that was going to happen. And yep, that happened.
Someone said, what if we're night owls? And I think the very simple answer to that is, yeah, but you're not going to set a date to go out at 9:30, 10 p.m. on a regularly.
Maybe in the summer.
Maybe in the summer.
Right.
like, we're trying as best as possible to mimic real life dating, you know, to the best
Also,
of
wait,
our ability.
so if you're like, I'm a night owl, but my husband is not a night owl, right? So you might be a night owl, but the person you're dating might not be a night owl. If you're both night owls, you know, call me. Let me know how it goes. Send me an email. you might have some fantastic conversations. Look, I work with a lot of clients, and I do work all over the world. So sometimes I am up at midnight and I'm on a phone call, and for them it's so much earlier and it doesn't matter. And I am a night owl, and that's the way that it is. So I'm just saying it's not ideal in the realm of like, what's an ideal, perfect, you know, white picket fence, perfect situation. Here's the ideal situation. You know, use your wisdom and your own internal clock if you're a night owl, and adjust it accordingly. It's a good question.
Awesome. Here's a fun question that came up a few times. Can you give us some ideas for how to make online dating a little bit more exciting? Whether this applies both for people who were dating in person before and now due to circumstances are forced to continue dating online, or whether they're just starting and the relationship is progressing beyond the initial first few conversations. How can we switch things up?
Okay. So some people have said play virtual games online. Somebody just told me recently about a new app, or maybe it's not new. It's not a new app. It's a new to me app. And the app basically lets you have, I think it's House Party or something, where you can have multiple people on the screen and you can play games together, and the games are all synced with the app, and it's just an entertaining thing that you could do. So there are different things like that where you could do apps online, games online together, and they're interactive. It's not just, you know, independent play. Those are interesting. Some of my more interesting ideas are things like you can give them a virtual tour of, you know, your place, but I always tell people avoid the bedroom and avoid the bathroom, but show them, I don't know, like if you've got a painting on the wall that your grandmother made, and like just bring the camera over there and like highlight, like, oh, you see this over here? That's my favorite thing. You know why? That, and tell them the story and how you got it and how you came to it, and take them into your kitchen and open your spice rack, and, you know, or if you don't have a spice rack, open your junk food cabinet and tell them like some of your favorite things, your nosh, or like just let people have like a peek into your life, but not just your life, like just not, we're not taking them around to show them a tour of physical objects. It happens to be physical space that we're showing them, but what I want you to give them is the emotional point of view. Okay, so you might be taking them on a tour and you might show them your favorite snacks, but what I want you to tell them is, growing up, my father used to get that for us. That was our Sunday treat. And you know what my favorite memory is? Okay, so you take an ordinary snack and you turn it into a memory and a moment that somebody's like, oh, like you're like, I hear you, I get you, I understand you. That like there's something to you. So you can do that with the kitchen. You can do that with paintings, dining room, your favorite carpet, a piece of furniture you love, like anything. Like find something. Basically, the game is find something and tell me a story. That's what it is. And share something, and don't make it so one-sided that you're all into your story and like the other person doesn't exist on the other line. Like make sure that this is a two-way street and a two-way conversation, and make sure also to go back and forth and not just rotate every other time, but just figure out the flow that works for you.
And Jessica's adding, you could share pictures from your camera roll on your phone of your memories. I know that's like when I've been in person on dates, so often we would just like, oh, this is when I went here, this is when I went here, and pull up a picture for reference. Yeah. So if you're going to share this story in conversation, I love that idea of just sending a picture to go along with it.
Yeah, also if you're old school like me, like if you're older than a certain age where you remember film and you actually printed pictures, you could actually not use your camera roll and go to your photo album.
What is that? What's film? What are you saying? Someone added that YU Connects created a resource sheet with activities conducive to virtual dating. I've not seen it. I don't think Aleeza's seen it, but you might want to
send it to me. Send it around.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Some other ideas, we were talking about this last week, and some other ideas that came up were potentially like doing a coffee date, or if the relationship is advanced enough, doing like a candlelit dinner, or
cooking date.
Cooking dinner. Yeah.
Cooking dinner
Together, put each other on video, cook together.
Yeah.
Aleeza doesn't like this one. I'm going to throw it out there because I like it. But Netflix party, like I am the kind of person who likes a good movie date. Yes, I do. But whatever. Aleeza doesn't think my opinion counts. I'm not a dating coach.
No. That is not at all what I think. I think I have a different opinion, that I don't think it's a great thing. I've always said, separate from Netflix, like, we don't need a movie date, because usually people don't talk through movies, and if they do, it usually irritates one party or the other.
Not when the rest of the theater is empty, but whatever.
But I'm not a fan of that. But it's a good idea for the people that it works for. It's not something that I would highly recommend, but Sarah recommends it.
Again, not like this is for if you've already developed a relationship and you want to have a date night, but you can't. Like me.
I think also, like you said, if you would be doing that in person, then okay, so that's something you would normally do in person. That's okay to do. If it's not something that you would normally do, I don't recommend it. How's that? Good count?
100% with you. 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Any other ideas coming up from you guys? We had some good ideas. There was something related to music, sharing your favorite music.
Yeah, songs. Excellent.
I think there's a lot of ways you can switch things up. And I'm blanking on other than the ones that we just came up with. Okay, Aleeza, we are at 8:10. So we've been at this for an hour, and we still got like a ton of awesome questions. So here is my question to you. How do you feel about me reading the questions, and then I'll give you 60 seconds to answer it, just so we can get through a whole bunch of these, people can get answers. But I'm going to cut you off at the 60-second mark. How's that?
I'll talk fast. Shoot.
Okay, good. I know you can do that. So, all right, give me 1 second. Question number 1. Oh my gosh, I love this. Okay, this is not a question. I once had a guy buy me dinner and deliver it to my house. That may be an idea to do with online dating, to have a dinner date together.
But he bought the dinner and sent it over? Bonus point, Shazam for him. Nailed it. Excellent.
That's awesome. Okay, I already started dating someone. I'm in New York, so we're all stuck at home. We cannot see each other in person. Besides that, I'm very overwhelmed with my kids at home, so this would be a second marriage, I assume. Online or phone dating doesn't work for me. I'm feeling stuck and in limbo in the middle of a potentially good relationship, but feeling like if we're not building a connection, we're coming apart. Any thoughts?
Yeah, thoughts are, this is even shorter than 1 minute. The thoughts are, put it on hold. Have a serious, real conversation. Make a time when kids aren't around that you can have a real taskless conversation and just say, I like what's here, you like what's here. Acknowledge both sides. I like it, you like it. There's something good that's happening. I'm not a phone person. I'm not a video person. And the timing right now is a little bit much. And because I can't put into this, I don't want to take anything away from it. And what I'd like to do is click pause. Obviously, you can't demand that somebody not date other people. That's going to be up to them what they choose to do. But you can let them know, I would like to resume this when we're in a position to date in a healthy way, because I really think there's so much potential here. I'm just not able to juggle it right now. But I don't want you to be confused and think if you were important enough, I'd be able to juggle it better. It's not true. Unless you were living with me, I couldn't juggle it any better. And I want to, wait until we have the proper ability to do this. So
awesome.
Pause.
Thank you. What do you do about privacy, being that the whole family is home right now? How do you manage privacy when you're video dating?
Difficult, really super difficult if you're not living alone. You lock your room. You either wake up early, super early, so the whole house is quiet and everybody's asleep, or you could stay up late, even though I said don't stay up late, but you might want to stay up late if that's the only time that you're going to get privacy. But the basic thing would be to just, and to let everybody know, I have, and you don't even have to say a date, whatever it is, I have a meeting where I need quiet and silence. I'm going to go in my room and lock the door. I'll be out at this time. So if you give people notice when you're coming back, they don't freak out that you're gone. That would be the best way to do it. and just juggle the situation.
Awesome. What if you started dating someone, and I think you might have actually touched on this, but what if you started dating someone 2 weeks ago remotely? How will that person know that how would one person know whether the other person is educated on how to date virtually? Say person one showed up, is learning a lot right now, but the other person didn't necessarily get that same background.
Right, we don't know. We don't know, but there is a lot of information going on out there. But what's most important is that you, as the dating progresses, that you are on the same page or that you're comfortable. So even if you both aren't starting from the same position, one person just has to be the guide in setting the boundaries that are healthy and good for you. And that will naturally set the boundaries that are healthy and good for somebody else. So you might have to take the lead. If you're not comfortable taking a lead, that's a whole other story. But if somebody else, it would happen in in-person dating also. If you weren't comfortable with something, you'd have to speak up for yourself. So we have to do the same thing online.
Thank you. I love this question. I'm also going to preface it and make a disclaimer on your behalf and say that you're not a rabbi, but we do want your opinion anyway. What is your recommendation in general, more specifically now due to the corona situation, regarding reaching out to past dates and or relationships to request mechila from someone you potentially may have hurt, or to express to that person that they hurt you? Is it best to clear the air or to just let things be without risking toxicity, etc.? A lot of Rabbanim are saying to evaluate if we said or did anything to hurt others, etc. during this crisis.
So I think a lot of singles tend to do this around Rosh Hashanah. And we consider the new year to actually be multiple times throughout the year. So actually before Pesach is like also a new year. And I do think it's a healthy and appropriate time to ask for forgiveness, to ask for mechila from anybody, including your date. If the date is completely unaware of something, sometimes we feel bad that we did something, but somebody else would be unaware and you would be bringing up a situation that they really wouldn't even know about, or it wouldn't make sense to them. That's not what we're asking you to do. If it's something where you hurt somebody, even if it was unintentionally, and you just want to reach out and apologize, I think a sincere apology is appropriate. The question is, how do you do it? For most people, it's usually something that's written as opposed to a phone call, because sometimes phone calls can get uncomfortable and you're surprising and obligating somebody to be on the phone at that time. Whereas if you send them something written, they can read it in their own time when they're ready to handle it. And if it's going to make you feel better, then I would totally work on that. If it's not going to make you feel better, if it's going to make the whole situation worse, or if there was something really, really like a close relationship there and then it split and now it's going to like open the wound again, I would be cautious. That's kind of borderline coaching. We would really have to talk through that because that's too detailed and nuanced.
So bottom line, ask Aleeza or ask your LOR.
Yeah. If it's deep and tricky.
Right. This is a really good question, so I may even give you 2 minutes. But from my experience of dating someone virtually in the past due to distance, after finally being able to meet in person after a handful of virtual dates, I found that the in-person connection meshed as well as it did on the computer. How would you recommend setting yourself up for success so the transition matches and continues to build on what you have already been building virtually?
Good question. I work with a lot of clients virtually, and one of the most interesting things that happen is if I haven't seen their photo, which sometimes I don't see people's photos, there's no reason for me to see them. If I have not seen their photo, when I actually get a photo of them or when I meet them in person, my brain can't handle the information. So I remember meeting somebody once and I was like, oh, wait, hold on. And I closed my eyes. I was like, talk, say something. And I'm standing there with my eyes closed, and as they're talking, my brain is absorbing and I'm like, oh, right, that's who you are. And then I opened my eyes and I was like, oh, okay, wait, keep talking, right? I literally had to adjust what I had heard, who I had heard with who I was seeing, because it just wasn't the same, and my brain and my eyes and my ears all had to get in sync. So how do you match that up? Slowly. I would tell you, give yourself twice or 3 times as long to get comfortable with somebody in person. If there's something nice that's there, again, in general, when in doubt, go out, or what I like to say, date them till you hate them, one of those 2 phrases. But But when in doubt, go out. When you do meet them in person, when you do meet them, I'm going to say it again, because we're all going to be meeting them in person. When you do meet them in person, give yourself much longer to adjust to seeing them. And if you're building a connection now, as the relationship progresses, prep them for that also. Just say, listen, when we meet each other, things might get a little weird in the beginning. Let's give ourselves twice as long to get adjusted to each other, so that you're both ready for that and you've prepped for it. I find that when we prep ourselves and the other person for what's coming, we can handle what's coming so much more than if it's just like, okay, how do I deal with this now? So I like the prepping.
I like that. Thank you. All right. This one came from someone who is dating a second time round. So I'm going to ask the question from that perspective, but I think if you can also answer it for first timers. Is it okay to chat with a few people at the same time until you find someone you think you can be serious with?
Oh, I just had this question with a client the other day. Okay, so here we go. If you were dating in person, when you'll be dating in person again, I like to recommend that you pick one. You pick one person to date, you pick one person to focus on, and it doesn't confuse your brain, it doesn't overwhelm you emotionally. A lot of people like to chit chat and date and schmooze with lots of different people. It gets confusing. A lot of people date multiple people at one time, or when they're traveling, right? And they're in one city, they'll see somebody in the morning and somebody in the afternoon and somebody tomorrow, and there's like a whole bunch of things that are happening. So in general, for in-person dating, I like people to date one person at a time. Online, I just had somebody tell me, and this was so cute. She's like, I feel like I'm cheating on, so-and-so. Like, she's not really dating either of them. She's just in the get to know you phase. It's more of a get to know you than they even went out on a first video date or a phone call. Or maybe they had one or two, but like a video date and a phone call are just so preparatory, right? Like meeting somebody, 5 seconds, is that what that is? I want 5 seconds. I want 20 seconds more. So meeting somebody in person gives you so much more information, and doing it online can take so much longer. So what's my recommendation? In an ideal world, in Aleeza's perfect ideal world, you just date one person. If you like them enough, you keep dating. If you don't, you stop. Reality, people are schmoozing with multiple people. Try not to really be talking with more than 2 people. If you had to talk to 3 people, like, you don't like them enough if you're just schmoozing with everybody. You don't know them enough. Get a date on the calendar. If you don't like them enough to get a date on the calendar, don't bother talking to them. There's plenty of other people to talk to. You apparently have other options, so pick somebody else and pick the person that you're most interested in to start with.
Awesome. All right. I live with roommates and do not have my own room. The walls are thin and the entire house can hear my conversations, even though no one's trying to listen. I've been having all my private conversations in my car, in the front yard, and going on walks. It's not ideal, but do you think it's practical to be dating productively in this type of situation?
Yep. That's it. Exactly what you just said is what my clients do. They talk on the phone in the car. Sometimes they talk to me in the car because they don't have private spaces to talk. They go on walks or in the front yard, or they're sitting and talking. And sometimes it's nice because you are actually alone and there is a moment there, even though you're not in your own space. That is absolutely what you should do. Take a break, separate, and make that call. Good job.
Thank you.
I meant to the questioner, but good job to you too.
I was thinking of the answer. Sorry, give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay, the only way I'm making peace with this everything going on, is to frame it as an opportunity to have a new friend during this isolating time, and think of more than a friendship developing. Think of it more as a friendship developing as an added bonus. Thinking about it as focused on as regular dating is too unrealistic and pressured. How do I feel out?
It's more like a friend who, if something develops, it develops, but I'm really approaching this from a friend relationship.
Right. So the question is, how do I feel out whether she's okay with this middle ground, or she needs me to be more serious about a relationship, like either it's a connection or bust. FYI, let's assume the dates are coming through SIO at Sinai and similar traditional introduction channels minus the formal. aspect.
Super helpful that you said that. Thank you. So because they're coming through those channels, those are dates, not friends. If you want friends, you should just let people know you're looking for a friendship at this time that could develop into something. But there's a lot of people that don't look for opposite sex friends. They're just not interested in a friendship. They're either interested in a relationship or not. So if they're coming through those channels, those are dates. Those are real dates. She's expecting you to be interested in her as a date. If you can't handle that and you're like, look, we could be friends, and if something works out later and then we meet, okay, great, great. Tell her that, since these are coming through those channels. Set her up with that. If she's okay with it, then she continues. If not, then she won't get hurt, and then everybody's clear. But definitely make that clear to them.
Awesome.
Good. It's
Thank
a good
you.
question. It's a really solid question.
Is it easier to become infatuated with online dating?
You know, it's just as easy to become infatuated with in-person. Yes, because sometimes we're in our heads a lot, and we spend a lot of time, you know, with ourselves in our heads imagining what's happening. So yes, you could become infatuated more likely, but really only if you're the type of person to become infatuated. So there are these types of people, and there are people that are not like that at all. The people that are not like that at all, no, they're just not going to become infatuated, not usually in person and not usually online. If you are the type of person to become infatuated in person, you're also the type of person to become like that online. So guard yourself and look out for that.
Great. This question is coming from someone who was a job seeker even before the coronavirus, so keep that in mind, but I think it's a good question for everyone who unfortunately is not working right now. Can you give me some advice on how to not feel uncomfortable and not feel judged if it comes up that I don't currently have a job?
Yeah, so you have got to get your strengths, like core, you've got to be so rock solid, where you can say, oh yeah, I'm, you know, in between things, but confidently, like, oh yeah, I'm in between. Like, what do you do? Oh, I'm a researcher and writer. That's so great. Oh, where are you working? Currently, I'm in between things. Oh, okay. I used to work at such and so company. I was there for 2 years, 5 years, whatever it was a phenomenal position. And now I'm looking for something new, and I'm just in between things. See how confident that came off? That was like strong. That was really solid compared to like, oh, well, I mean, I was a writer. No. I am a writer. I am a researcher. I had a job, but I am this. I do this. Just because you don't have a job doing it now doesn't mean that you don't do it. So it's the language, it's the confidence, it's the strength. And you also have to know, like, you will have a job. You've got to know.
I really like the referencing where you used to work, because I think that
right, because you can't tell them where you do work. So
what?
I said, because you can't tell them where you do work.
I think that sometimes in an effort to just kind of avoid the situation, it's just kind of like, oh, I'm in between right now, move on, next question. We've switched the topic entirely. And that could make the other person uncomfortable, because avoiding it is never a good response. So don't avoid it, acknowledge it, which is why I love that you said, like, this, I am still a fitness coach and I used to work at XYZ. And you have the benefit that a lot of people right now are kind of in a similar position. So you don't have to tell them that you didn't have a job before this whole coronavirus thing happened.
Right. And it's not a lie that you're not telling them that. Is sometimes you don't need to share every detail of every piece of information with somebody, and you can just do things. You need to still put your best foot forward and put yourself in a good light and a positive perspective. And also, people do like to hear that people have a positive outlook. So if you don't think that you're going to get a job, or it's going to be so difficult because of the corona, like, no, not putting your best foot forward by thinking that nothing's going to happen. If you don't believe in yourself, why should anybody else believe in you? You've got to be the one to be solid in who you are and what you want. And you've got to let other people know that, yeah, well, something's going to come up. The economy is in a transition right now, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the next thing is for me. I've been looking, and I have my eye on a few things. Hopeful, positive, looking, aspiring. Aspiring to something is such an appealing trait.
Awesome. How can we ask important questions about marriage, values, the future while dating virtually without putting too much pressure on the other person? Are there any things that we shouldn't be asking because we're dating virtually?
I think the same way you do it in person. Yeah, like marriage, values, all that. Yeah, I've got to dig into the good stuff. I totally want to know what you think about all of these things. And if you're dating, I want you to get it out in the open at the right pace, at the right time. Don't inquire on the first date where they want to live, how many kids they want to have, and how they want to raise them, and what they want to do, and where they, right? Like, don't do all of those things on a first date. But on what you would normally do in person, I would do with them virtually and follow through a very similar pattern. And I wouldn't hold back from having real conversations. Absolutely not.
Awesome. Ooh, this is a good one. Should one do as much research about the person before they date as they normally would do before an in-person date? So this is assuming that they're the kind of people to check out references, do a little background research. Good question.
Yeah, I have to think for a minute because somebody asked that question in a different way and I gave a certain answer, but specifically, if you are the type of person who does this, if you're the type of person who normally researches people, then whether you were dating in person or online, you would still be researching somebody. If you want to shift or put a temporary hold on your value in researching people, you can. You can just put the pause button on, this is what I used to do, like pause, not doing that, I'm going to shift and do something different now. But if this is who you always were, then you should look into people. And the truth is, you could probably get through to the references a lot faster these days. So it's an excellent time to be doing research and getting information pretty quickly. If you want to shift your values, whole nother story. I've had people do that, but yeah, if you're into researching, you should. Because it would be the same if you were long distance. We would do it the same way, right?
Basically, for the most part, we're doing as much as possible. Again, we're just trying to mimic for real dating because we're treating it with the same respect and the same seriousness.
The same, yeah, exactly.
All right, I got some questions that are not necessarily specifically online dating. Aleeza, we didn't discuss this beforehand. What's your time frame? Because we still got a whole lot of questions
so
and a whole lot of people hanging out.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do a quick, put a comment in the chat. If we keep chatting and answering your questions, is that good? Would you like to continue? Give us a yes or a no if you want. I mean, obviously, anybody who's no, they hopped off. But I assume anybody who's here is listening, half listening, one ear. And if you'd like to hear more, I'm good.
We got a lot of yeses.
Yes, great.
All right, awesome. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to do a follow-up to the
we're going.
All right, I'm going to do a follow-up to the employment question. What if after you say that you're in between positions, the woman then asks, how long have you been looking? And starts scrutinizing one's work history and mentions that she grew up with an unemployed father. So this is a specific question, but I'm going to let you answer it.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I can't hear. What? Did you say something? Oh, it's a poor connection. I can't. Scrutinize. Like, how rude. No, I heard the end of the question, which is that it's coming from a place of she's kind of freaking out because her father was in that position and now she's having like these flashbacks. Oh my gosh. Flashback, flash forward. My father was like this. My husband's going to be like this. What if you're like this? Oh my gosh. And like her head's exploding. Okay. If it's your situation, if this girl is hypersensitive to this and this is going to be a hot button for her, if you can gracefully handle this and navigate it, then you might be a good partner for her. If you're panicking like, dude, I don't know if I could support you. I don't even know if I could support me. Like, we'll have to figure it out as we go. She might not be the right person for you. And that would be the same thing online or in person. So you got to kind of know who you are. You got to know who you are and you got to know how to answer it. And you have to see their anxiety level. If their anxiety level is a 10, my question is, do you want to deal with somebody who has an anxiety level of 10 and you have a situation that irritates them to a level of 10? Okay? My anxiety is a 10 and your irritation factor is a 10, which means we're off the scale, we're off the chart. So if you can't handle navigating the relationship and talking about those things, then this isn't a relationship that you should pursue. If you can have a real conversation and they're open to also having a conversation and learning more, then there's a possibility that this could be something more.
Awesome. How do you know if a person is at a healthy place within themselves to build a marriage-minded relationship versus someone who is just lonely and wants connection right now, so is joining the dating pool?
Thinking. You might not know the first or second date. If somebody becomes unresponsive or more casual or not so into the dating and just kind of like, not that they blow you off, but they don't seem to be progressing it or taking it so seriously, you might think that that's the case. If you're the direct kind of person, you could just say to them, like, are you seriously looking for somebody now? Are you casually dating? Like, what are you looking for? It's okay to ask that in an inquisitive, curious way, as opposed to an accusational way where it's like, oh, well, it sounds like you're not really looking for anything serious right now, or maybe you wouldn't have said that or asked that. So if you get that impression, I would look into it. We don't really know. There are a lot of people on. There are also going to be these tricky people who are really just online because they're figuring it out, but they're not necessarily serious. They meet somebody, they actually kind of like them, and then they have to realize, like, oh wait, I think I'm serious about you, and then their brain gets a little bit confused. They do flip-flops, and then they like come to the reality, and aha, like there could be something here, and I have to be ready for it. So that also is a possibility, but what you're looking to is avoid somebody who's just not focused and serious about dating or a relationship. So look, if you have that instinct, I believe in people's instincts. I believe in you. You have a gut instinct. God gave us a gut instinct, and it's our gut instinct because it's for me. I'm supposed to do something about it. I tell people like this: if there's a piece of food and you pick it up and you smell it and you're like, ooh, and it is like smelling rancid to you, don't eat it. Your nose is giving you a sign that it's not going to be good for your stomach, and that comes from the nose. So if you have a gut instinct that this is not for you, that's internal, it's in your core, then don't pursue something because it's just probably not going to work for you. If gut, by the way, some people don't have such strong gut instincts. I've had plenty of clients and they're like, I don't know, I don't have a gut instinct. They usually say, I don't know about so many things. But if you don't have a gut instinct about things, that's okay. find a mentor who can guide you through it. Find a friend, find a family member who can guide you through it if you don't have an instinct about
it. All right. Isn't Skyping on your phone not great since people don't look great up close on the phone? What do you advise if your car or walking outside is your only chance of privacy? And I'm going to add on to this, if you could throw out your few tips that you gave us last week for when you went live with JWed, which, by the way, will be happening again, but for how to position your phone so that you do that well, and with adding in, but what if you're walking outside and stuff like that.
Okay, you ready?
Ready.
So, my camera here is at eye level, okay? My camera, it's actually my computer. My computer is actually sitting on a can of coffee, a can of sugar, and a can of tea to balance it so that my eye level is right at the camera height eye level. What I do not want.
Shipping box, by the way.
Okay, good. What I do not want is like this. I do not want somebody looking up your nose. That doesn't work for me. I also do not want this kind of a view where somebody is just looking down at your forehead and just it's a weird view. The other thing that I do not want, if you are walking and you're walking outside, this is what they're seeing, makes me want to vomit. So please don't do that while you're walking outside. Also, if you're walking outside and it is nighttime, they're not going to be able to see you so well. So what I would love for you to do is to, look, some people are less bothered by movement. If they're not super bothered by movement, it's good to hold your camera out as far as you can from your face to get distance. So like as far as your arm will go, hold it out. We're really building up our muscles. When your arm gets tired, switch arms and use the other side. And be aware of the movement. Be aware of how it's jiggling and moving. Be aware of the eye level of the camera. Also make sure, I've had conversations with my own clients where the camera is like this, and the whole time they're having a conversation with me and they're like this, and they're like this, and they're everywhere except actually looking at the camera where I am. So it could be that they have ADD or ADHD, or it could be that they can't hold eye contact or whatever it is. I don't know what it is, but if you are on the phone with somebody and it's a video phone call, like the whole point is that your eyes should look at their eyes, even though you're not actually looking at each other's eyes. What am I forgetting? What did I leave out? Oh, if you have a tripod, you could set up a tripod. If you end up sitting in your yard, and if your arm gets tired, even if you don't have a tripod, I'm like super creative with stuff. So I just grab boxes and whatever, and I pile things up and I balance it so that things look right. So try to get it that it looks good
if you're going to be doing a lot of walking outside, then maybe that's just a good phone conversation. Not every conversation has to be by video.
Right, exactly. Yep.
All right. Okay, this is a good one, and I'm still going to keep you to your 1 minute limit, but how should we learn to trust ourselves if we are an older single already and we regret decisions we have made in the past?
Heavy, 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 heavy. Okay, so first of all, you can see like my heart is just in pain hearing that. So number one, you have to know. If they're not for you, it's not for you. If it ended, it ended. If it's done, it's done. Even if you think you made a mistake or whatever happened, if it's done, it's done. It's okay. It didn't work. It wasn't the right thing. Do not beat yourself up over this. Do not beat yourself up over this. That's number one. Number two is basically dating goes like this, and I said it, but I'm going to repeat the way that I said it or say it in a different way. Everybody you date is the wrong person until it's the right person. And you're going to make mistakes along the way. We all make mistakes. But dating is a series of failure after failure after failure after failure, after failure, like until infinity, until it is that one person, until you are connected with that one person. You're supposed to fail. And doing it right, doing it wrong, like it's very subjective what's right and wrong. Like how do we know exactly what you did was wrong? Maybe it didn't feel right, but it doesn't mean it was wrong. Maybe it was wrong. Maybe somebody got hurt. You had to apologize. Okay, but it's just, how do you learn to trust yourself? Call me. No, slowly make good decisions in your life. Like anything, do something, trust your gut. Your gut says to pick something up and put it over here and you don't even know what, just do it. Follow your gut to do something and learn to trust yourself in other ways in your life outside of dating, and then slowly learn to trust yourself in dating. You have to, because you know yourself better than anybody else. And I believe that my singles have the best ability to be their own guide, more than me, more than anybody.
Thank you. I'm actually going to reiterate one point that you made, because I know that I found it really, 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 really helpful. And I know older single is such a relative term, especially in the Jewish community. So I'm not going to say I'm an older single, but I did date for 10 years. And one of the things that just kept coming up while I was dating my now fiance was like, but it never worked before, so why should this one work? Why should this be the right guy? And once Aleeza told me you're gonna fail 99% of the time, I was like, oh my gosh, yes. I'm not used to failing. I don't like failing. Failing is not like okay in my books. And so for like, I had to kind of retrain my brain that when it comes to dating, when it comes to marriage, I only want one. So obviously it's gonna fail every other time. And only on the last try with the guy that I actually end up marrying is it going to work. So I found that really, really, really helpful. Whew, okay. Every time we answer one, 4 more come in, but they're all good. They're so good. This is a quick one. Should one give an extra chance on a video date as opposed to in-person date, even if they're not necessarily attracted to them?
Okay, so I'm going to assume that means that you are potentially somewhat attracted to the inside, even though the outside you might not necessarily be attracted to. Should we go with that? Because if you weren't attracted to the inside or the outside, right, then it wouldn't work. But it means that there must be something on the inside, but the outside isn't what I'm looking for, or not what I think I'm looking for. It's a difficult question to answer. It's difficult because you could meet in person and you could be like, wow, just totally not for me. Or you could get to know them. You could date them 10 more times. You could love who they are on the inside. You could come to be okay with who they are on the outside and grow to connect to them in that way. And it could work. And I've seen it work.
Do you want to do your monkey story?
Which one?
Your monkey story?
Oh. I was like, what? Okay, so I had a client once. Actually, it's such an interesting story because I actually set them up, which I don't really do for people, but they started going out and he happens to look like a little bit more like a primate, like a monkey, you know, like he just has that. Have you ever seen those men? They have this very ape-like look to them. I don't know how to describe it other than, you know, they look like a primate in addition to looking like a human. And turn that off. Where's your silence button, my friend?
No, it's for you.
Oh. Oh, people are messaging questions.
No, this is your 1 minute timer.
Oh. Oh, that's what that is? Oh.
Do you feel differently about it now?
Yeah, I thought you kept getting phone calls.
No.
Okay. So
My phone is on silent.
Oh, okay. That's the 1 minute timer. Oh, you should have told me that like 40 minutes ago. Okay. So she's like, Aleeza, like, he's great. He's perfect. He's like, and so I described him. I was like, he's like the male version of you. She's like the female version of him. I described them. They're like, what does that mean? I'm like, go out. You're going to see what it means. So they went out and they started to connect and understand what that meant. And then she's like, but he has this look. And she described it like a monkey. I was like, yeah, he does. She's like, it's not what I thought I was going to end up with. I was like, I know. She's like, but I really like him and there's something really there. And I was like, I know, you just need to date a little bit longer and see how this works for you. And it's a running joke between them now. It's actually a funny thing. And they did get married and they have kids and thank God it all worked out. But it took her so much longer than normal to become comfortable with it. But she loved what was on the inside. So the whole point of that long overdoing your timer 1 minute story is that you do have to really like what's on the inside. And if you do like what's on the inside, the outside can come to be something that you're comfortable with and grow to love.
Awesome.
Or at least like and tolerate.
All right. What if you're at the point of meeting parents' family? Should you do it virtually or should you wait? We don't really have much information in terms of, I don't know if they've been dating in person before the coronavirus or not. But I guess
I would assume you're only meeting family if you've been dating beforehand. If you've been dating beforehand and now you transition to online and you were close to meeting parents, the only way that we're able to do that now is virtually. I would say it is okay to take those next steps and to do that virtually, with the caveat that both singles need to prep the families that this is what's happening, and that this is it could be awkward and we're going to get through this together, but this is the best option that we have now. And I would give it a shot. If you think that one or both sides is very opposed to it, obviously you're not going to do this. This is only if everybody is on board with being okay with moving things ahead. And I think it could be done very nicely. Make sure to take screenshots because those are going to be some of your photo album memories.
And I think that obviously if you weren't dating before, then there's really, as much as you date on video and virtually, and we don't know how long this will be for, you're not really going to get to that point.
Right. That's only if it's beforehand.
All right. Okay. This is a two-parter. So you'll let me know if you want to answer both parts or just one part. Let's say I went out with someone 4 to 5 times and now we are video phase of dating, but the relationship feels platonic and it's not moving forward. What can we do to take it to the next step or get some clarity? And the second part of the same person's question is also, what are your thoughts on the mazalot and the effect they play in dating soulmate?
2 separate questions. That's like 2.
Correct.
But don't beat me out here. Okay, so getting more connected, you have to ask more intimate questions. There is a list of like 36 questions online. If you Google 36 questions, it pops up like the #1 thing on mine because I've searched it before. Maybe, Sarah, maybe we could put a note down to email out a link to that.
I am. Yeah.
Okay, great. Oh, also, we have questions. Don't we have questions for people? Don't we have a list of questions that we're putting together? We'll talk about that later. We have lists of questions for you to ask to get to know each other. To ask each other, to get to know each other, to build a relationship and to build a connection. And you need to ask deeper questions, and it needs to be You need to kind of keep up that momentum. If you need to add a little romance, not romance, but if you need to add a little bit of a romantic energy, then this is the one exception to the rule where I would tell you you could talk later at night. And the reason that you could talk later at night, and when I say later, I just mean, 8, 8:30, 9, 9:30-ish, is because there is a different energy in the world. And in your home, if you can dim the lights or turn on candles or something where you could set the atmosphere and the mood in your room so that you feel a romantic or something more than a platonic connection. I'm not talking to a friend. Then set that atmosphere. Or if you're outside and you're walking under the stars, and it's a starry night and you're together. I need you to work with your brain to visualize feeling a little bit more in a non-platonic relationship to build the relationship up. So you may need to physically do your environment or mentally get yourself into that headspace. So that's number one. Number two is you're talking about kind of like horoscope and your signs when you're saying the mazalot. Is that what you're speaking about? That I'm assuming, well, the person could clarify, but I'm assuming that you're talking about people and different signs and what do I think of those things. So we as the Jewish people are not bound by the stars. I do think that our signs give us a little bit of information about where our personalities may fall in different categories and different ideas of who we might be based on when we were born. But we are not bound to that, meaning we are above the stars, meaning we are above. We don't reach this limit of, oh, this is the only potential that I have to be, and that's it, and I hit a wall, right? I have the potential to be who I need to be, and that's really unlimited. And so I subscribe to it in that it's a Jewish concept for our signs to exist, for our birthplace, our birth time, our birth month, our birth moment to be something significant within history and to have a framework within the world. And some of that information comes through these mazalot, through the stars, through horoscopes, but we're not bound by them. And therefore, I wouldn't read somebody's profile and be like, oh, that probably won't work for me because you're such and so sign. Maybe it's true. Maybe they've refined themselves. Maybe they become the best person in that possible scenario, and maybe you could be a match. Don't totally write something off.
Awesome, thank you. If a date declined the idea of a video date after several great phone calls, is it appropriate to wait for a stronger connection after more phone dates to explore the possibility of a video date again? In other words, how does one know whether declining a video date is because of genuine discomfort with video dating versus insufficient connection to say yes to that?
So I'm a little bit torn here because I think the only way to be as in person as possible is through video date. And by not video dating, it's a little bit of a challenge for us right now. So I think that we need to get people on a video, and I don't know. I think if they're uncomfortable to do that, and I wouldn't expect you to date 4 or 6 times without ever seeing them virtually, at least. Same thing in person.
Like age at all might play a role in that? Like if someone's not, like not used to it, not comfortable with it.
I mean, it could just be that they're not used to the technology, for sure. I guess I would still want you to have, I still want you to have photos or something so that you know who you're talking to and you have an idea of who you're looking at. But I have seen people send photos and they look different, in a photo than they look in person. And so we're a body and a soul. And so for us to not actually to be able to see each other, it makes it difficult. I know that there's there's people in the modern world that have told me all about the new show called Love is Blind, which talks about pod dating, where they have 2 people dating in 2 different private locations.
By the way, you've been talking about it so much, I had to watch.
Oh, did you watch it? I didn't watch it. We don't have TV. Anyway,
like, what is Aleeza talking about?
So Right. So they're dating and they're in 2 different pods and they can hear each other, but they can't see each other. And they get to know each other through this intimacy of emotional connection and talking. So I like that. I think it's beautiful. I think it's fantastic. I love that there's no touching involved, that they're really getting to know the brain, the thinking, the heart, the soul. They're like getting to know the kisses of somebody. And at the end of the day, we're also a body. And so we have to connect on all levels. Otherwise, it's not going to be a match for us. So if somebody's not great on a video call, I mean, it is a problem because you could have a lousy video call and then cut the whole thing off because, you know, you can't see them, you can't hear them, they don't know how to work the technology. It took 10 times. It's so irritating. The process ruins the whole thing. In that case, I was, you know what? I came up with an answer. My answer is to say there's something nice that's here, but I don't want to continue on the phone without video because it's a little bit difficult for me. Take ownership and responsibility. That's cool. And just say, you know what, could we pick this up, you know, like in a month or two if you're available or I'm available and life situations have changed. I would love to be able to talk and then meet in person. I think that's the smartest thing to do. So that's a moment where I would click pause and leave something that's kind of neutral or nice there, but pursue it when there's a real opportunity to pursue it.
This is just my question. If someone is open to trying a video date, I think, would it be fair to say that that doesn't necessarily mean every date after that has to be video date? Some could be video, some could be phone call.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, alternate back and forth. Again, like kind of normal life. Like I see you in person and sometimes we just talk because we can't see each other and something like that. Totally normal.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How do you feel about people who connect on many levels? Both are Bali Chuba, however, one person is further along religiously. They both like each other, but one person isn't sure about being more religious than the other, but they both say they want to continue dating, it sounds like.
Okay, I've had this situation a lot. And there's a lot of people that have given these types of couple the advice, if you're not exactly on the same page, then you have to break it off because you're heading like this and they're heading like this and it can't work. If you really have a connection and you both want to continue and there is something nice that's there, good. We'll figure out everything else. We'll figure it out. You're here, they're here, you're moving like this, they're moving like that. We're possibly heading in similar directions, but maybe at different speeds, you know, like we're on the highway and I'm going 85 and you're going 45. And so we'll get to the same destination, but you'll always be trailing behind. Okay, what does that mean for your relationship? What is that going to look like? How is that going to feel? How are you going to handle it? How are you going to transition through it? Right? These are all the things that I do when I work with people through the process. And we talk about the tachlis, real issues that are at hand. If there's a nice connection, there's a nice connection. It is very, 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 I'm saying very a lot, very hard to find somebody that you have a nice connection with. Do not let it disappear. We are all in a state of growth, but Bali Chuba especially are in a state of growth. And so we have to be very careful and monitor that and see where we are, where they are, and where we together want to end up, and if that's some place that we could get to.
Awesome. Should we let the way the other person looks on the outside, saying they look good, make up for some things that we cannot find that we wanted on the inside? That would be a no.
Survey says no. Okay, so here's the deal. If you like the outside but you don't like the inside, the outside grows and gets older and grayer and more wrinkly and just as cute, but like it just looks different. And the inside that you didn't like doesn't get any better. It usually gets worse. It gets more intense. The things that you don't like even more after a longer period of time. And so this is the case where your eyes really like what they see, but your brain is like, nah, oh, really? Did you just don't talk. I just want to look at you. You know, right? Like, if you just don't talk, we'll be fine for the rest of our lives. I'm okay just looking at you. No, you can't. You can't. I'm so sorry. You can't. And do not compromise your internal values. Do not.
All right. Got it. Message. How hard should we try to make a relationship work if we are older and have dated for a long time? I don't know if that means the two of them dated, or if I just dated for a long time, how hard should I be working to make a relationship work?
Okay. So relationships take a tremendous amount of work, and the older that we are and the longer that we're single for, the more difficult it is to bring us together. And the reason is that we grow up and we're born and it's like us, and it's like us and our families, and then we like do our own thing. And then if we meet somebody, we're as formed as we are to this place, but as we get older and older and older and older, and whether it's 40s or 50s or 60s or 70s, we become who we are so much more so without that person by our side. And so I'm me and you're you, and now we're trying to come together and bring this together, and it's very difficult to bring something together that's more formed and more mature. Now, that being said, you should know tons of people of all ages, especially older singles, because older singles is my specialty. Older singles are getting married. Lots of them, dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and hundreds and thousands of people are getting married. First time around, second time around, with kids, without kids, divorced, widowed, divorced once or twice, widowed once or twice. I mean, like, you name it, people are getting married and things are happening. So how much should you work for it? So my question is, how much do you want to be married? If you want to be married, you should work really, really, really hard. And how much do you like the person that you're with? If you like that person, you should work really, 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 really hard. If you don't care if you're married so much and you're like in between, I could take it or leave it, so maybe it's not for you. If you don't love the person that you're with and you could take it or leave it, so maybe you should keep looking for somebody else. But if you want it, you should go for it. If you like them, you should make it work.
Awesome. This is a not detailed, but like a little bit more of a specific question. Do you think if a guy mentions he's uncomfortable that the girl's older than him, but will continue to date the girl because there are a lot of good things there, do you think he will get over it and they should continue to date, or in your experience, he just won't get past it?
I love this question. Okay, I'm going to tell you why I love this question. I love this question because I can think on the top of my head of a handful of couples, and the guy was not thrilled that the girl was older than he was, and it was anywhere from, I don't know, 4 years to, I think the other one was like 9 3/4. No, there's not 3. There's not. No, 4, 7, 9 3/4, 6. I mean, I could go through a list. I have a list of dozens and dozens and dozens of singles that have done this. So for the guy, let me just tell you, you may or may not ever get over it, and you still might marry her. Okay, that means you could get married, and it could still bother you every time she has a birthday, and you're like, oh my gosh, she's like 5 years older than me. Okay, happy birthday, sweetheart. I love you. Here's your cake, you know, and you still might be cringing on the inside, but you still found your soulmate. Okay, so your brain never got over it, but your reality is that you chose the person that was appropriate for you. Or you could be the person that, like, yeah, you get over it, it doesn't matter. I've seen it happen so many times. I'm not going to convince you that your brain will get over it. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but you'll probably still marry her if you really like her, and you probably really should, because it is so difficult to find that connection. If you find it, you marry it.
I think the question was coming from a woman, so just to clarify, there is hope. Then she was asking, like, should I still keep dating him? Is there a chance that he will get over it? And the answer is, whether he does or doesn't, he will marry you. There's a chance.
No, they do. I mean, yeah, there's some people that don't get over it. I don't know how long they've been dating. So if you're dating 2 or 3 or 5 times, you don't have enough information. If you're dating for, I'm just going to say 2 months or 3 months, or something longer term, yeah, for sure. He doesn't have to be over it, but he could still marry you. And you shouldn't convince him to get over it. You shouldn't talk about it. You shouldn't hyper focus on it. You shouldn't bring it up. You should just keep doing the relationship in a fabulous way and having a great time and never talk about it, basically.
All right. I got a really easy one for you. How do you know if someone's your soulmate?
I love you.
I know you do.
Okay, the short answer is, that's a difficult question. The short answer is that I think about this question nonstop. This is like something that circles in my brain and drives me crazy in a really good way. So years ago, I was, in a good way, spinning out in my thinking about this, and I came up with this system, and I call it Clarity, spelled CLAREADY. Clarity, clear, to be clear, and to be ready. And the basic gist of it is that we have values. We know what we're looking for. We know what we want. And then we have the reality. We have a human being in front of us, and then our brain tries to match those two things up. And often what we do is we take our desires, we take our reality, and then we smush them together, and we try to make them match. And I don't like to do that, because your brain is smarter than that. So what I like to do is to say, here's what I want, here's what I think I need, here's what I think is good for me. And it's not coming from a place of arrogance or stupidity. It's coming from a really fantastic place. I think these things are going to be good for me. Here's what I got. Here's how this person matches up. And here's where the difference lies between where I am and where they are. And then you have to get real. Can I handle this? Am I comfortable with this? Can I learn how to navigate this with this person? And in addition to all these things that we value, that we want in a relationship that are going to help us, there's also these things that are irritating to us. Every relationship has things that irritate us. If you have not found something that irritates you about somebody, you have not dated them for long enough, or you are not being real. From Noah Weinberg from Isha Torah says, if you cannot name 5 things that bother you about a person, don't turn around and walk away. You better run. You gotta know what bothers you. Otherwise, you're in la-la infatuation land, and you're not gonna get married from la-la infatuation land. So how do you know if somebody's your soulmate? Number 1, I would tell you, spend enough time with them. Spend time. If you're not sure, when in doubt, go out. Right. Good answer, right? When in doubt, go out. Keep going out. Keep pursuing it. If you're not sure and you need clarity, call a mentor, call a friend, call somebody, work on it. How do you know? It's really difficult. Some people expect the movies and to have that spark of like, la, it's my soulmate, I love you, you love me. We have that feeling. You know what that happens? That happens for about 2% of the people, maybe less, maybe 1. It does happen. It does. It's like a lottery winner. You know, like who wins the shit-up lottery? The one that just falls in love and it's easy. So if you're not one of those 2% or 1%ers, it's very, very rare. And you have to have that personality type to be like swept up in the moment. If you're not one of those, you're probably, I love you.
What
you're
are
probably
you talking about?
But you're probably going to be one of those people that like goes back and forth in their brain. I like this, but I don't like that. I like this, but I don't like that. But I've been with them. I have clients and they're like, but we've been dating for a long time. I never thought I would date this long, but we've been dating for 4 months, 6 months, 8 months. I still don't know if they're the right person. Should I look for somebody else? And I always ask people, have you ever had a connection like this before? No. Have you ever dated anybody for this long before? No. You know, like we try to go through a process of elimination to figure out what has worked, what hasn't worked. The long and short answer is that there is no short answer. There is only a long answer to the question, is this my soulmate? And it's so individualized and it is so personalized, and you have to know yourself well, and you have to know the other person well, and you have to know your relationship well. And those are 3 different things.
Bottom line, if you're not sure, call Aleeza. She didn't pay me to say, well, she does pay me to say that technically. No, I'm kidding. Follow-up question to that. Should someone get engaged if they don't feel they love the other person?
Oh.
And I don't know, again, if this is coming from someone who's like a little bit more yeshivish and dates for a couple weeks, or someone who's a little bit more modern and dates for longer. But
doesn't matter. I don't actually need you to love somebody before you marry them. I need you to like them. I need you to value them. I need you to feel connected to them. Love is this very funny word that is really, people when they say, if I don't know if I love them, they're usually speaking from the heart. I don't know if I feel like I love them in the same way that I love my fill in the blank, mother, father, sister, brother, best friend, anybody, right? I don't feel that connected to them. That's usually what people are saying about love. And love is something that develops over time. Love is an investment. Love is a give and take. Love happens over a lifetime. And if you like them, if you connect to them, if you want to be in touch with them, if you want to talk to them, if you want to call them, if you want to be there for them, if you want them to be there for you, these are all signs that you're with a great person, that this person could be your soulmate. Do you love them? Okay, maybe you can't say that you love them. Maybe you grew up and you didn't say I love you. I say I love you to my kids. I honestly probably each 10 times a day, maybe more. So much so that they like walk out the door, and even my teenagers walk out the door and they're just like, bye, I love you, Ema. It's just like, it's almost like it just drips out of their mouth. It's not even, and are they really saying I love you? Are they not? I don't know, but I'm telling you, teenagers are still saying, bye, I love you. Like, it's a win. So, but they're used to saying that. Do I think that they're going to be able to say that to their spouses pretty easily? I do. If you didn't grow up saying I love you to people, and that's not normal for you to say it or to hear it, then I wouldn't expect you to say it, hear it, or necessarily think that you feel it in that moment. So it wouldn't surprise me if that.
Can you just clarify what you mean when you say you feel connected? How do you know if you're connecting? What does that mean?
How do you know if you're connecting? Well, I mean, I would compare it to any other relationship. How do you know when you're connecting with a friend? There's 10 people in a room. One of them you connect with, one of them you don't. How do you explain that? To me, I get a little tongue-tied. I'd rather give you an example so that you could use that example and look in your life and say, oh, right, there's coworkers. How do you know when you're connecting? Well, this one I get along with and that one not so much. And this one I have a good rapport with and that one not so much. And this one we have similar values and that one not so much. How do you know if you're connecting? If you can talk to them, if you, again, you want to hear about their day, you want them to ask you about your day, if you want to get to know them more, if you enjoy being around them. Those to me are all signs of connection.
So it does not mean fireworks or sparks necessarily.
Fireworks make me nervous.
I know.
Fireworks go like this. And it dies. So firework relationships make me very, very, very nervous. They almost always end in a sudden death. Just like spontaneous love, like, oh, I'm so connected. This is like amazing. I just think they could be my soulmate. To like, yeah, that wasn't my person. No, yeah, it's just not going to work. Or I don't know what happened.
So we just want to like clarify this. So when you talk about whether you're feeling a connection, you're talking about the same way that you would with, not necessarily in the exact same way, but when we talk about connection, that feeling of there's something there that I want to spend time with that person, that I enjoy being around them, that I enjoy touching base with them, regularly. And that's what needs to be there in a strong way, more so than love itself.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Also, I think we should soon wrap up, just so that people can go to bed. I'm happy to keep going, but
we do a few more questions?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, this is a fair question. What if you still have all those things that we just spoke about, that connection, those feelings, you want to hear about their day, you enjoy talking to them, but some dates are still awkward?
Yeah, that happens. It happens. It happens in marriage also. You sometimes have these really awkward days that just don't go so well, and you're like, I married you. I picked you. Okay, I'm cool with that. I think that you have to, it's big picture. It's kind of like, you go out and we have apple trees in our front yard, and in the fall we go out and we collect apples, and like some of them are good and some of them are rotten, but like overall the majority are good, and there's fewer rotten ones. So same thing. In terms of a relationship, you should be having more positive moments, more up moments than down moments. There should be more connections than disconnections. Sometimes for people, it's, more neutral. If you have one of those like neutral personalities, you might have one of those neutral relationships. I would expect the same way that you have a relationship with friends and coworkers and family members, your relationship with your spouse is going to mimic that. So whatever your norm is, look for that and see if your relationship is mirroring that.
Awesome. Let's do like 4 more, okay?
Okay.
That's just a random number. Okay. How do you move the dates along? This is a woman asking the question. How do I move the dates along if the guy is holding back but agreeing to go out again?
So
and then wait, I'm going to double this up actually, because I have a guy asking, is there anything I could do if I feel the girl just isn't sharing her feelings with me, or does it just mean the relationship is hopeless?
Okay, so here's the challenging thing. The challenging thing is that we are at a time period where a lot of this is virtual. So the virtual piece could make some people feel awkward. So we're going to put a cluster of people in virtual land, and in virtual land, that's just weird. It's always going to be weird. They're going to have a hard time opening up. Now, real life land, there's also a whole group of people that just have a hard time opening up. I have some clients that I work with, and they're like, Aleeza, I like this person, but I am having a hard time opening up. And I like them. I don't even understand my own brain. How is it that I like them and I can't open up? That's so difficult for me. What can I do? And that's a whole process that we have to work through. So we're not, just because we're in the virtual land doesn't mean that this isn't the personality of the person. And when that happens, I tell people, give the relationship twice as long and that person twice as long to develop, because they need more time. And if you see potential there, don't throw that potential away. Now, normal life, give them twice as long. Virtual dating, you might also
Wait, can I throw in one thing? I want to throw in one thing that you told me a really long time ago, and I love it so much. You can only go, the relationship can only progress as fast as the slowest person.
Love that line. That is my favorite line.
I love it because for
Oh, shoot. Do you hear me?
Yeah, you're on your computer audio now.
Right. Let's see if this one works. Whatever, either way. For a lot of people, yeah, we need to hear that. So just elaborate on that for a second.
Okay, so for a lot of people, again, people are moving at different paces in a relationship. So if you're the one that's ahead and they're behind and they're not opening up emotionally, you have to remember you can only move as fast as the slowest person, which means you cannot go back, grab them and yank them forward. They won't move like that. They don't move any faster than the pace that they move at. You can be loving, you can be open, you can be warm, you can be gentle, you can share your emotions and feelings, not because you're going to get them back and it's 50-50, but to show them how to do this, and then slowly you'll inch along together through this process, but you cannot move any faster than they are moving. So if they are not moving fast, then your pace now is slow. That's just it. I have a running joke that there's some people, you know, like my pace is like fast, faster, lightning, and some people's pace is like slow, stop, reverse. Slow is their fastest pace. Right? The other option is stop or reverse. So slow is pretty good. Like, hang tight with me. We'll get there. But like, you know, the tortoise and the hare, the tortoise, I'm just going to creep along inch by inch by inch by inch. And it might feel like no progress to you, but to me, that's as far as I could go, and that's as fast as I could go.
And I'm going to throw something in here because this is something I heard a lot from the people around me who really love me and really care about me and really saw that I was just like, let's get engaged already. And everyone's like, you know, does he know he's going to lose you if he goes any slower? And I think that that's a message that I got a lot during all the years of dating, not necessarily for me specifically, but it was a message we got. Like, sometimes you need to give them a little ultimatum. Sometimes, you know, you need to give them a little kick in the you-know-what to just like, you know, you're not going to stick around forever. And I think that if it's the right person and you feel like it's the right person, then you might just need to stick around for a little bit longer than you want to, because like Aleeza said, they're not going to go faster than they're able to go. And I mean, I can say for me it was worth it.
I have seen people give ultimatums, and I have seen people being dragged down the aisle, so to speak. And it's not pretty. It's very difficult. The first couple of years, 5, 10 of marriage is really difficult because they debated, should I have been in it? Should I not? I never really said yes. I just got roped into it. And it's so much better if somebody comes along at their pace and you're just lovingly there with them through the process.
Awesome. I think we have 2 more. What do we do if we start to feel like we use Shadchanim, went to events, and nothing seems to be working? I'm going to let you answer, but I'm also going to ask you to please tell people about dating detox, because I'm a huge fan of the personal dating plan part of the dating detox, and I feel like that fits in really well here.
Okay. So if you go to events, and then the events don't work, and with the Shadchanim it's not working, is that the...
we used Shadchanim, went to events, nothing seems to be working.
Okay. Okay. So when dating doesn't work, I do recommend that you take a dating pause. And what Sarah just mentioned is this program that I created called Dating Detox, which basically evaluates everything that has been going on, and we make a personal dating plan. We call it a PDP, personal dating plan for the future, what we want to happen. And we evaluate what's worked, what hasn't worked, when has it worked. Basically, you're going to tell me, Aleeza, nothing's worked. I know. But also, what can you tolerate doing? What do you enjoy doing? What do you prefer not to do? You know, what are the ways of dating that you can tolerate and handle, and what are the ways that you really don't like handling it? And then we go through these action steps, and we make a plan of dating that's going to be different than whatever you're currently doing, and we shift it slightly, and the goal is that you get different results. Everybody wants you know, can we guarantee you're going to meet your soulmate? Well, at some point, yes, that's what happens. People meet their soulmate. Will it be tomorrow? Will it be immediately after the program? Well, I don't know when it's going to be, but if I could get you different results by us working together through this process, then I did my job. And I believe when you get the different results, obviously, I think they're going to be better results and hopefully lead you one step closer. So Dating Detox does provide a plan to do that. It's a 1-week plan. It's an online program, and you basically sign up, you get videos, you get worksheets, and now is a great time to do it. I always tell people, when you have time in your life where you have the space to be able to evaluate and do things, this is a great time to do it. And it's 1 week and done. And there's like a boom, an amazing action plan. You figure out what you're doing. The last time that we ran this, somebody sent us a note and she said, you know, I had my 3-month reminder to like revise my plan. She goes, I can't believe it. I am engaged. Mazel tov. I just wanted to share the good news. I put everything into place and I can't believe that it happened for me. So for some people, that's going to happen.
I think that came at her 3-month when she had like scheduled a 3-month reevaluation.
Yeah. Yeah. She's like, I never thought I would be engaged. I can't believe it. It's like the bell is ringing and I expect I should be like revising my dating plan. She goes, but I don't have to. It's really sweet.
All right. I think this is going to be the last one. How do you know if your head and heart are in the right place before starting to date? Do you have a list of good benchmarks or good self-evaluation? How would the benchmarks for healthy emotional dating differ for online versus in person? So 2 different points there. A, how do you know that you're in the right place? And B, is it different online versus in person?
Okay, so in short, yes, it's different online than in person, and you have to brace yourself and kind of like gear up for what's happening online because it's a longer process, it's a slower process, it's a less clear process, and it's an unknown timeline of when you're going to actually be meeting in person. So that's the short answer is you have to be very geared up for online dating. The first part of the question is, say it again. I'll make sure I answered exactly. Sorry.
How do you know if your head and heart are in the right place before starting? Do you have a good list of benchmarks or self-evaluation?
It's a good question. I mean, I go through a lot of questions and personal evaluations with my clients, and a lot of those things, I put a lot of that information in 2 places. One is in my book that I wrote, which is called Get Real, Get Married, and that's on Amazon. And there's basically worksheets, not worksheets, what's it called? A
checklist?
Action plan. There's an action plan at the end of many of the chapters that get you ready. And when I wrote the book, I was thinking, if I never ever write anything else about dating, and if I never write anything else about the process, what's the baseline that I want people to know? What do I want them to be thinking about? How should they ready themselves? So the book is either you could buy it and have it shipped, or you can buy it in e-version, which is, you know, less money and easier to get access on these days. And it's really reasonable. So there's an action plan that's in there, and it is a self-reflective process. Who am I? What do I want? Why do I want this? Why do I want this? Why is this so important to me? I'm chasing after something. What am I chasing after? Why do I want this? And that's what's going to fuel your entire relationship. The second place that I put these types of questions and answers and information is in what we created, which is called Daters Academy, okay? So Daters Academy is different from Dating Detox. Dating Detox is a total dating detox. It's all in the name. But Daters Academy has more questions about who you are and what you want and what you're looking for. It's less introspective about you as a person, and it's more introspective about you and the person you want to be with. So Get Real, Get Married book has more introspective stuff for you solo, and that's like a first step to me. And a second step would be something like Daters Academy, which is an online program that has 5 different courses. There are videos with each course, 3-minute, 5-minute, 7-minute little quick bite-sized videos, and worksheets that go along with each section so you can prepare and get ready. And it's all, I like to move it like, a modern pace where you get a lot of information and you can move through things efficiently and get really good results. So those that would probably be my two answers. It doesn't give you a short answer of like what are those exact questions that I would ask, because there's not like 5 questions, there's like 50 questions. And I can't rattle those off the top of my head, but that's where I put the information.
Awesome. Aleeza, someone put this question in twice, so really wants an answer. So I'm just going to ask you really quickly, okay?
Okay. Yes.
Do you think after going out more than 5 or 6 times, it's appropriate to text each other daily, or should there still be some more spacing out now during coronavirus and normally?
Good question. Are you a texter? Are they a texter? Do you like text? Do you find it overwhelming? There's like 986 questions I would want to ask you before I answer this. I assume because you're asking it that you probably want to be in touch a little bit more often, and that my intuition says you probably want me to, like, not me, somebody to give you approval to say like, it's okay, you could be in touch more frequently. So I will just tell you, I have seen couples who text more frequently, but they both like it. It's good for both of them. It's fine. It's normal. It's what they would normally do anyway. And without it, they feel a little bit lacking. And if they don't have it, they think something's wrong with the relationship. So for them, it really works nicely. I've seen other couples where like one side likes the texting and the other side is like allergic to the texting, and it's irritating for the one person. And so they have to like moderate, and you can only text as frequently as the most irritated person, or however you want to phrase it. But if somebody else can't tolerate it so much, you've got to dial it back and tone it down. And I've seen couples where they're like, I don't want to text. I can't. I need to like talk to you, or I need to see you or something, but like I can't. Texting is for like quick blips of time and setting dates and information and play, like that stuff, but it's not for conversing and schmoozing.
How do you know where the other person's at? Is that a conversation you have?
I mean, I'm assuming you probably have been texting a little bit, and so you might have a little bit of a clue about it. You totally could have a conversation if you're already dating 5, 6 times. You could say, like, oh, I was thinking about texting, or I heard a class or somebody mentioned something about it. What do you think? What are your opinions? Or offer your opinion first and ask them what their opinion is. And let them know, like, I'm not looking for us to be on the same page. I love this. Tell people, I don't need us to be on the same page and to match. I'm here. Where are you? Let's see what would work for us. Because there's me, there's you, and then there's the relationship and us. And that's the messy part in the middle that we're trying to figure out how to navigate. So just be straightforward and leave space for them to be different and have a different preference than you.
Awesome. And I know I'm not the dating coach here, but I learned so much from being with Aleeza, from working with her as like I'm the client, and from working for her as you're the client. So I get to learn a lot of things. And this is actually one of my favorite ones. This is something that I've heard all my life, that if you want something, let the other person know. Because like we said earlier, men are not mind readers. And
neither are women. Neither are women.
Yeah, 100%. But something that I really learned was how to do this. And I think like at the beginning for me, I'm a texter and I prefer to text rather than talk on the phone, like as a general rule. I'm that person, if you call me, I'm going to like send you to voicemail and be like, what's up? I can't talk right now. Aleeza, don't worry, I never do that to you. But my point is that I like started to notice that when, at the beginning, the first couple weeks, we were texting a lot. And then things started like slowing down, and I was like, I don't know if he's pulling back or what's going on. And I just like asked him about it. And it turns out he's not a big texter. He'd rather just talk on the phone. He'd rather pick up the phone and call me. So I'll get a phone call. I mean, now we're engaged, but like I'll get a phone call at a random time instead of just a like, hey, what's up? Randomly my phone's ringing. So knowing what the other person is like is really helpful, and knowing that you could just ask them about it.
I was just saying, and not guessing, just conversing about it and connecting over it.
Okay, there's one more that also put in twice because he or she is still sticking around.
Okay, come on. Tell me.
How do you know if you like hanging out with them because you're excited to be in a relationship, but at the end of the day, you don't miss them? What if you like having a conversation with them, but you don't respect everything about them? What if you only respect some things and not everything? Sounds like a relationship.
Okay. Okay, so wait, there's two things here. One is the don't miss them, and the other one is the respect side of it. Okay, so the don't miss them. I love the don't miss them question. I get this all the time. I don't care if you miss them. I don't need you to miss them. I don't. If you talk to them, you like talking to them, and you're happy when you're talking to them, that's good for me. If you enjoy connecting them with them when you're connecting with them, that's good for me. That whether you do or you don't miss them, arbitrary. It's not a sign that this is a good person for you or not a good person for you. It's something that people come to expect, but it's just not a sign for me. So that's an easy one to answer, and just throw that aside. Okay, I mean, don't throw it aside. You know, file it in your memory bank, and don't count on like, oh, if I don't miss them, there's something wrong. No, I mean, I love my husband, but if I go away for a couple of days and I have to go do something for work, or I go here or there, do I miss him? Like, I'm busy, I'm doing things. I love him. Do I have to miss him to love him? No, I don't have to. I mean, also miss is so subjective, just like love is so subjective. Do you miss them? Okay, you hear I have like a little bit of a rub here. It's a little difficult to kind of get to the meat of this, but I don't need you to miss them. In terms of respect, this is its own class that's like, 3 hours long. So we'll sum it up in about 30 seconds. Yes, you need to respect some things about people. Are you going to respect everything about somebody? No. What are those things that you do respect or don't respect? We talked a little bit about having clarity and going through this understanding of what you want and who they are and where those values align or where they're mismatched. And a little bit, I want to say that we have to have a certain amount of respect, so that when I look at you and I look at you in the eyes, you're a human being who I respect. However, I might not respect all the decisions that you make. You, I respect. That decision that you just made, not so much. So let's differentiate between respecting a person and respecting the decisions that they make. So now my question to you is, do you respect who he or she is as a person? And now I want you to think about, what decisions do they make that you don't respect? And is it the person you don't respect, or is it a few decisions that you don't respect? And that might frame it in a little bit of a different way.
Awesome. We have 1 more minute before 9:30, so we're going to round it off with one more question. How do you know if you keep on dating? How do you know if you keep on dating because you're afraid that you're not going to find anyone else who's better, more suited, or if you really want to continue dating this person?
That one is really hard.
I know.
That is not a 1 minute answer.
I know, but it's there and it needs to be answered.
I'm dealing with it right now with somebody, and it's really, really difficult. So number one, again, I need your core to be strong. I need you to be really strong. I need you to know who you are. I need you to know your values. I need you to know what you want. And I need you to know this person who's in front of you. I also need you to know the difference between Mr. or Mrs. Right and Mr. or Mrs. Right now. I remember dating somebody, and at one point I was having a conversation with my mom. May her name and memory be for a blessing. And she said to me, like, oh, you you really like him, or something's really here. And I was like, no, not really. And she's like, what? And I was like, well, he's Mr. Right now. He's not Mr. Right. And she said, what does that mean? And I said, well, it means that he is filling a certain need for me right now. I need a relationship, or I need something, and he's offering certain things that are just very fulfilling to me, but I actually don't think he's the right person. And she said, well, why are you still dating him? And I said, well, I'm still trying to figure that out 100%. If I'm 100% sure that what I just said is true. So let me ask you, is this person Mr. or Mrs. Right, or Mr. or Mrs. Right now? Are they filling a need? For me, at the time, I had come back from Israel. I was studying there, and I loved it, and I missed it. And I was like polishing for anything Israel, Israeli, just like, it just made my heart feel warm. He happened to be Israeli. We would make Israeli salad. There was like stuff that we did, and I was like, oh, it just put me in my happy place and my comfort with missing Israel, and it filled a really big void, in addition to being a person that I was looking for the right person, and I was sincere about looking for the right person, and I was wondering, could this be the right person? But it really wasn't. It was really just a Mr. Right now. It wasn't a Mr. Right. It could have just as easily been Mr. Right, who also filled other needs, but I came to a point in clarity in knowing the difference between the two. So you've got to ask yourself those questions. Mr. or Mrs. Right, Mr. or Mrs. Right now, and how do I know the difference? What would put somebody into this category or that category?
Awesome. We still have some amazing questions, but it is ridiculously late. We're going to get to that hour, Aleeza. It's 9:30. So we better stop now.
Witching hour.
Yeah,
this is the after party now. Now we can have the real talk. I said, now we can have the real talk, the real talk.
So I don't know, what do we do with all the other questions?
Do we have to write them? Can we write them down, and can we host another webinar next Sunday or something like that?
Would you be interested? Not you, the rest of you. If you're still on and you would be interested in continuing this conversation, no, the yeses are already coming in. Yes. Okay. So what do we say next week? Okay, we got it.
That's okay. Keep writing it in. It makes us feel good. Okay. So, okay, great. So first of all, can we make sure that we have all the questions? Technically, let's make sure that we get to keep all those questions.
I have to figure out how. And yes, someone just asked, can we send them in advance? And I was actually thinking that's a great idea. I was going to
we'll put it on the registration link.
Yeah, we're going to we'll add a little space for questions on the registration.
We'll call it an AMA, and ask me anything about dating and relationships.
Look at you using social media terms and whatnot.
Somebody taught me that term like last week.
And it wasn't even me.
No.
All right. So here's what we'll do. Hang on to your question. If we didn't answer it and you want it to be answered, please drop it in the just answer the question with your question, because we're Jewish around here. On the registration, we'll put out a link probably, what's today, Sunday, so probably in the next couple of days. It'll be on Aleeza's Instagram. You'll get an email.
It'll be on the website also.
It'll be on the website. There we go. Just head over to the website, fill out the registration, and you'll have a little space to ask your question, and hopefully we'll get to it next time around. If you can, make a little note if you were here at this session, just so we can know to boost your question forward.
We'll set it up all behind the scenes. Did you attend the previous session,
Yeah. Alrighty. Have a good night. Aleeza, any final thoughts?
No, thank you. Final thoughts. I do have final thoughts. My final thoughts are, this is a time period that will be an era to remember. This is a moment to remember. So when you look back on this time period, in addition to all the other things in your world, when you look back in this dating time period and you're like, hey, what happened in 2020? What was I doing in 2020? 9/11, everybody's like, where was I? I know that moment when I was in the supermarket and I heard the news, right? Well, what did you do when you heard about Corona? What did you do with dating? What did you do with your life in a relationship way? Did you go out there and date online? Did you stop dating? Did you take a break? Did you do a detox? Did you take a moment to ground yourself, center yourself? Did you ask yourself questions like, what did you do during this time? Because you're going to look back and this is going to be a year to remember, and I want it to be for the good. So I'm going to end with a blessing that this year should end for the good for everyone. You should find your soulmate, whether virtually or in reality, and you should find them virtually, and you should meet them soon in reality.
Amen. Thank you. Alrighty. Thank you all. We will see you next week, I hope.
Okay. All the best.
Good night.